Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Finance Committee of Saturday, February 28th, 2026. We'll start with roll call. Mary Ann Galezzo.
Here.
Andy Levine.
Here.
Chris Diorio.
Here.
Brad Jackson.
Here.
Joe Lovino.
Here.
Anthony Nelson.
Here.
And Scott Neville.
Here.
And myself, Teresa Manganelli. I'd like to start off this morning's meeting with a few words regarding John Doherty, who passed away last week. John Doherty was a friend of mine, as well as having been on the Finance Committee with him for over 20 years. He served over 3 decades leading this committee. He served with pride, always willing to help people. No matter what your question was, he was thrilled to be the person to answer it for you. I will end by saying, in friendship and respect, John Doherty was a good and honest man. Does anybody want to say anything? All right. At this time, if you are willing, would you kindly take a moment of respect for John Doherty? Thank you very much. Mr. Town Manager, did you want to speak about the reserve fund transfers?
I did.
Okay.
Although the agenda says reserve fund transfers, there's just one. And I sent out the information yesterday. So as we moved into this building, there were a lot of technology pieces that were thought of and brought forward, and unfortunately, as we got into the structure, one of the things that was not contemplated was the challenges we have with cell service in the building. So this room and the room next door are generally dead spaces, and in the main portion of the building, if you're not up close to the windows, it's very hard to make cellular phone calls. So as it wasn't contemplated in the budget, we do need an IT project to do this. Right now, the school budget, or the town hall budget is in the reconciliation phase with the contractors. We're not sure when that reconciliation is going to be done. And so it's not appropriate for us to do change orders right now during this phase of the work. In talking with John O'Neill from our IT department, he's gone out. This is the entity we have has a federal contract, so it's covered under procurement for the state. This entity would be a one solution. It is possible we could go to each telecom provider to try and get individual solutions. So we'd have Verizon come in and try to provide a solution, and then AT&T, and then T-Mobile. But right now we have one a piece of fiber infrastructure additional to what the town needs that's already been in the building. That this vendor would be able to use to solve all of our problems. If we did want to go individually with each individual carrier, they would all likely to need to pull fiber except for the first one, and that would mean puncturing walls, potentially, puncturing roofs for different antennas for each individual carrier. Whereas if we did this, the project that John has come up with, we only need to have that happen once. The cost of for the vendor is $75,000. We're carrying an extra, or a request to carry an extra $25,000 because we have to pay for our roof installer to come in and verify the work to maintain our warranty on the roof. We wanted to carry some extra just in case there was an unanticipated overage or something that they weren't aware of before the project started. The main reason why we're bringing this forward as a reserve fund transfer is the concern about safety for visitors and staff in the building without having that cellular access. There's lots of spaces in this building, vaults, elevators, and there is a concern that if we had a power outage and somebody got trapped in an elevator without cell phone service, that could be a problem. And I'd rather push forward with this now and get the solution in than wait until we see if there's enough funds left in this project budget to add it on as a kind of a later change order. So that's the request. I want to give John a lot of credit for this because he's the one who went out, looked at all the different possible solutions, came up with this this solution that basically solves all of our cellular issues as opposed to trying to piecemeal it together.
So if I understand this correctly, rather than going to the individual providers of cell phone service, the Verizons, et cetera, we're going with an independent person that will install the material that we need so that they can all access in here.
Yes, and so that would mean that Verizon phones, AT&T phones, T-Mobile phones would all get the boosted service. Basically, the problem is we have along the front face of our building, we have all of our windows have screening because of the sun. Mm-hmm. So that screening actually effectively blocks most cell service. The back of the building is tucked into a hill, which is a very good way to block cell service. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really contemplated that this was going to have this type of an effect. So we do need all of our carriers to work. So this has a new antenna on the roof of the building that will then come in and have an interior broadcast antennas that broadcast the cell service inside. So it bypasses the need to go through either the hill or the...
Would it be normal, once the building has, I suppose, been closed in, to have this tested so they would have known that there was a problem before the building opened?
So we were aware that of the problem. It was just it wasn't contemplated in the initial specs for the budget, and so by the time we were aware, which was when the structure was already was closed in and dried up, there wasn't. I mean, the funding was already done. Everything had already been allocated and almost all spent by the time they realized that this was an issue.
But is that something that routinely would be checked? So, for instance, when we build the new school, will that be checked and addressed?
Well, we're going to make sure it's on the list.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So we learn by our mistakes. That's great.
Yeah. So just because of the nature of this building, because we have a large influx of folks from the outside, residents and other non-staff that are here, and also staff who may have personal emergencies. We want to try to solve the problem sooner rather than later.
I was actually in the building in John's office trying to get help, and I needed to use my phone to get the dual push, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. They're like, oh yeah, we don't have any service. It was kind of surprising, honestly, in a brand new building. But I'm glad to see that there's a solution, and thank you to John for figuring it out, like he has so many things.
I will say that Dennis Kelly finds it refreshing to be in this building because nobody can get in touch with him. He likes to walk around, and then he walks out into the parking lot, and his phone explodes from all the notifications. But you can't get in touch with him. So it is. I mean, those are the kind of things that make it kind of. It is frustrating. It is sporadic. For instance, I'm sitting at my desk in my office. I can receive phone calls on my work phone, Every time I try to make a phone call on my work phone, it dies, unless I walk over to the window.
Right.
So it's just, for me, that's just my experience with it, but I certainly wouldn't want someone to be in an emergency situation or have their family in an emergency situation and need to reach them, and I guarantee you, nobody in my family knows my landline number here. Nobody calls landlines anymore, they just call it themselves.
Well, it's unacceptable for anybody to not be able to utilize cell phone service in this building. So, do we have any questions regarding this transfer?
Yeah,
Brad?
I'm,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Brad. I'm just a little surprised that this wasn't thought of with the professionals. I mean, the layperson's on the committee, and I would assume that they would know, but your OPM and your builders and your architect that's a big oversight for a building in 2026 that should have cell service inside.
Yeah, no, there's no question that in this day and age, everybody should be cognizant of their cell service. I will say this, but because of the way I think John researched this, we wouldn't have gotten any better pricing if we did it during the project. As a matter of fact, it might have cost us more, because our contractor would have added 10% onto the cost of the underlying job. So us doing it separately may actually save us a little bit of money, but it should be, that being said, it should be something that's in the scope of work for the technology piece of any project going forward. So we're thinking about it for the substation and for the school. We'll make sure that they're contemplating this as a potential need, or to at least test and find out whether or not there's that challenge.
Have we tested this, is this build, how's the radio reception in this building for portables and stuff? I know the superintendent's office uses portables to talk to their minivans, walkie-talkies, talk to schools, et cetera. That can be troublesome in a steel building like this.
Yeah, I don't know if we've done any formal testing. I know, the fire chief, police chief, and other members of their staff are regularly in the building, and they regularly are getting their radio calls, because I hear them during the meetings. They haven't expressed any concerns to me. So,
Okay.
and the schools don't seem to have
Well,
any concerns.
we might want to just follow up a little more formally and make sure, because, the superintendent's office wants to be able to get in touch, or the business office wants to be able to get in touch with their minivan, because we had trouble over at the Roman House years and years ago before we put an antenna up, so,
We can certainly, take a look at that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
If I understand high level, they're basically punching a hole in the roof.
Yes.
So my only question would be, 2 years from now, if that leaks from a snow or rain issue, is there a quabble between the builder and/or this third-party contractor? Who covers that warranty?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why there's the extra money above and beyond the $75,000 is because we actually are going to be paying the roofing installer to be here as part of that, the puncturing. So they're going to maintain that's a part of maintaining their warranty, is that they have to be here and supervise any puncturing through the roof. So they will, us paying them to do that maintains our roof warranty for the duration.
Joe?
It's a compound question, if that's okay. Who's responsible for contemplating the cell phone reception in the building at the ideation phase?
So I would generally say that would be a conversation between the designer, architect, and, internal IT staff. I think that would be, my.
Just trying to understand the root cause, because if the town's on the hook for $100,000 and I'm in favor of this because safety is paramount here, but how could the town be made whole based on what I perceive as a design flaw for the building?
Yeah, I think that, we did discuss it, and this is the kind of thing that would have required a change order to add in the additional, and would have been an additional cost to the town. So it's not something, again, based on our internal discussions thus far, that appears to be something that's compensable, like we're not gonna be able to go back and say you designed it ineffectively. But I'll certainly continue to have those conversations with the OPM to see whether or not that is an option for us to say, hey, you should have thought about this, and you need to cover at least some of the costs, because we had to do it late, and we'll definitely follow up on that.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Are we aware of any other buildings in town that are having these kinds of issues? Like, are we going to have someone say, oh, you have a solution for this, we've had this problem, can you put one in our building?
No, I'm not aware of it. We haven't had any concerns at the senior center. And again, that's another one where I would be concerned about people not being able to have cell service in the building, but we haven't had any concerns with that. I really do think it's the double whammy of this being, backed into a hill, and then they were very conscious because of the facing of the windows to glaze those windows with something specific to lower the sun's impact in that. And the senior center doesn't have either of those issues. And we haven't gotten any concerns. I haven't heard of any concerns from any of the school buildings about it. But that would be the senior center was the other one that I was worried about. And the public safety building hasn't had any issues that I'm aware of with concerns about cell service. Those are the other large structures that we have that I would be concerned about.
Okay, have we finished with discussion? I'll maintain the motion.
So moved to approve the transfer of $100,000 from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund for the purposes stated.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any other additional discussion? Not seeing any? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you want me to sign this now? Oh, do you have it for me to sign?
Thank you for providing a copy of that in advance. I really appreciate that. Yes, please.
Is that all set? Okay, thank you. Okay, and now moving into the Wilmington Public Schools. Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you kindly introduce yourselves once you get settled? I think we're all new to each other. Yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I got an extra.
Thank you very much. Is this version any different than the electronic version we received the other day? It's exactly the same?
Okay.
Thank you.
That's great. Somebody needs to watch us with our copies. It's great because somebody always needs to watch us with our copies, make sure we all have them somewhere.
Good morning. I am David Thompson, Dr. Thompson. I am the proud interim superintendent of the Wilmington Public Schools. My colleague,
Carrie Simmons, Director of Admin and Finance.
Should we go around and just introduce ourselves? Anthony, would you like to start?
Anthony Nelson, I've been in Wilmington since 2019.
Good morning, I'm Chris Diorio.
Brad Jackson?
Scott Neville.
Teresa Manganelli.
Mary Ann Galezo.
Andrew Levine?
Joe Lovino.
nice to meet all of you. Nice to be here on this beautiful Saturday. Do you have a preferred,
You can start.
Okay, good.
With your presentation, and traditionally, people will ask questions while you're on a certain page or whatever, and that's to prevent losing that
yeah,
question at the end, so.
That's fine.
It gets a little chaotic sometimes, but we end up getting all of our questions in.
That's right, keep us all on our toes.
Yes, we'll try.
All right, well, thank you for having us. So I'm here to present the FY ·27 budget. The total ask from the school department is $54.3 million. That represents an increase of $2.25 million, or a percentage increase of 4.94%. Looking at, just line changes, if you look at personnel services, we're looking at an increase of $41.3 million in FY '26 to 41.3 million in FY '26 to 43.1 million in FY '27. Contractual services would increase from 10.3 million to 11.1 million. That separately, and we'll get into this a little bit later, is a 7.25 just on that particular area.
Excuse me, is there a way we can display this presentation while it's being given so the people in the audience and the people watching from home can get the advantage of this? Or is that not set up?
We didn't bring that with us.
All right, thank you.
Sorry. This does represent a $300,000 from free cash to help cover contractual obligations. So we did develop the budget with a mindset, to ensure the district's position to provide for student needs. Conservative additions for staffing and other areas were included. A majority of our personnel asks, and you'll see when we get into those, there's some that we're decreasing to increase others, but they do run in majority around mandated services, around special education, English as a second language services, therapy services, along with special education and contractual obligations. We were cognizant of the tax increase and the incoming or upcoming tax increase based on the school override vote this past fall, and that we were positioning this budget to put us in a good place going forward. We are committed to continuing the growth of instructional programs, including curriculum updates, our career pathways program, and improving course and educational opportunities across the district. Special education services, as we know, there is a cost increase that is becoming problematic, not just in Wilmington, but across the Commonwealth and across the country. However, we are morally and legally obliged to provide those services to those children. But that is a key budget driver in this. So looking at the budget drivers, and
Gary,
we'll
can I ask a question?
Sure.
You say it's a key budget driver, the budget's going up $2.5 million. How much of it is attributed to that line item? You're going from 51.7 to 54.2.
Yep.
You say on the next page that special ed is a key driver of the growth.
Yep.
So how much of the $2.5 million is that line item?
All right, so, yep. So if you look,
Special ed is going up for tuition by 52%, so that's $402,000. And special ed contracted services is going down by 26% because we brought a few positions within district, which the superintendent will get to shortly. And transportation is going up by 9%, which is an additional $68,000. So that is about, it's probably about, not probably, but 402 minus 2 plus 68. It's about $300,000 additional to the district.
Okay. Thank you.
No
yeah,
problem.
yeah, the majority of the increase in the budget is due to salary. 80% of our budget is salary. So, all right, so looking a little bit deeper at the budget drivers, contractual obligations are a major piece. As you know, we have successfully completed negotiating 4 union contracts last year. Those impact the budget this year, which is part of that $300,000 transfer. Transportation costs, which Mr. Simmons just mentioned. We are doing some shifts from contractual services to hiring our own in-house people. The rate of increase for hiring out for contracted services, especially around therapy, are increasing at a rate larger than what we'd like. That is an area that is difficult to find people to offer occupational therapy, physical therapy, and what have you. We're moving the occupational therapy folks in. There was a memo that I sent out last fall explaining that to you folks. Likewise, the athletic trainer position, currently we contract for that. That gives us kind of a base level of service. For only a slight increase, we would look at having our own person. That is a model that is becoming increasingly difficult to staff, and providers for contractual services are moving away from that. A lot of these folks need to have advanced degrees now in order to qualify, which is lowering the number of people, and we would actually get better servicing going forward. Yeah.
Excuse me, under occupational therapy, you did send out a notice in the past. Would you kindly give us a refresh on what happened that brought us to this point? And if you have numbers with you, that'd be great.
Yeah. So in our FY26 budget, there was $200,000 in contractual services to hire someone to provide occupational therapy services. After school started, our provider, which was a small, local, and relatively inexpensive organization, determined that they were going to close shop. She was going to retire, which then sent us into a quick search to replace that servicing. The cost was going to be more than what we had budgeted, and we looking at a different model where we would try to hire our own people and bring them in-house. We were able to do that under the FY26 budget, but that does impact our FTEs going forward.
And how is that proceeding? How is that proceeding? You've hired one person, one
Well, it's
occupational-
3.8. 3.8 in total, and we have hired we're still looking for some occupational therapy assistants, I believe, but we've also used the SEAM Collaborative to try to fill the gap. Finding certified occupational therapists is difficult. It's difficult for ourselves. It's also difficult for independent contractors.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Sorry, if you don't mind. Or, go ahead.
The exact number that, to fill the occupational therapists and the support staff, the quotas that the superintendent was speaking about will cost the district about $239,000. Currently, we've hired an occupational therapist at $77,000, but it also gives us the flexibility when we have the staff in district to support more students throughout, because we're able to schedule versus depending on the contractual services. So we're adequately doing what we can to make sure we have our resources in-house.
And so having an occupational therapist, they would oversee the services to the students, and then you have assistants that would help carry out that. Is that correct?
Right, you have someone well, I mean, both will be providing, but the occupational therapy assistant, under the direction of an occupational therapist, can provide occupational therapy.
Okay.
So
Great,
it's a
thank
little
you.
less expensive. I got the thumbs up behind me, so I'm doing good. Okay?
With the athletic trainer that you're adding, I know there was discussion at school committee that there are other communities that have more than one athletic trainer. Is this something that we're going to see another addition in a couple of years? Or have we thought about that?
Yeah, I think that definitely needs to be a consideration. I mean, there are certain sports, football, for instance, hockey, that you have to have an athletic trainer at. If you don't have an athletic trainer there, then you're trying to schedule or hire outside paramedics to be there. The other thing is that our current model is only providing that sort of coverage during games and what have you, and treatment, but not preventative treatment, which would actually benefit our athletes in the long term, and hopefully by bringing them in-house, we'll have more flexibility in time. But yeah, I think that, if our athletic program continues to be as successful as it has and grow, I think that would be something that would probably be looked at in the next couple of years, maybe a half-time position and another full-time position eventually. Yeah.
And this position is not expected to be part of the WTA?
I don't think we have not, It currently isn't, so I would suspect that it
I
would
mean,
not
it's
be.
not a, it doesn't require a DESI certification. You're gonna have different hours.
Yep,
You're gonna be establishing hours, you know,
Yep.
probably one in the afternoon to 6 or
Yep.
7 at night, with some flexibility for weekend time and
Yep.
things like that, so, I would make sure you, if there are any phone calls from the WTA, that we politely decline the invitation to include that person in the collective bargaining
yeah,
agreement.
yeah. It would not be a position that's currently in, in the recognition clause. Would
Yeah,
have to be
right, so that would
negotiated.
have to be negotiated.
Right.
That would require opening the contract, all right. I just think that's an important concept, because you don't need an athletic trainer at 10 o'clock in the morning.
No, no, you don't. I mean, you would have them come in to monitor kids' progress. Once they get kids out on the field, maybe other kids could stay behind and get athletic treatment there. And more flexibility to do that, off-season programming, and, to correct things that kids might. Currently, a lot of places are doing physical therapy, and then they're sending people over to be, trainers that have both certifications. Those people are few and far between, and your PT organizations are having a hard time staffing their main part of the business, so,
Merrimack's got a great program for this.
yeah. Okay, so, then the third budget driver is, an increase in student needs, and again, this is not a Wilmington-only thing, this is universally across the state and across the nation, special education, and not that our numbers are increasing drastically, but the level of service that is being needed is increasing, and the cost of those. We do have a very good relationship with the SEAM Collaborative, and use them for any placements that we need to, first and foremost, but ultimately, we do have a moral and legal obligation to make sure we're putting children in the best program that fits their needs. English language learners have been increasing needs, and the therapy services, we're seeing an increase in that as well. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead, looking at the salary changes. Again, the FY '26 budget was $41,368,149. We're seeing step and lane changes of $548,201. New positions, salary changes, replacement reductions, an increase of $1,214,047. Longevity, an increase of $12,070. A lot of those numbers you're seeing there were part of our collective bargaining agreements that we did last year. That represents a change up to $43,142,464, and that's your 4.29% increase.
Can I just make excuse me, Chris, ongoing, if you could make a notation that $1.2 million really should be separated, so we can see what costs new positions, what costs the salary changes. Replacements and reductions may stay together, but I think that would be important for the committee to be seeing.
That was my question. I was curious, how many new positions are in the 1.2 million, and where are they?
No problem. So going forward, so if you permit me after this.
Well, you can
meeting-
answer now, but I mean, going forward, I meant to break it out on your PowerPoint.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, we can dig that out and send that out
Yeah.
on Monday.
But did you get your question answered?
Yeah, it's about the number of new positions and what are those new positions?
If you go,
Expanding staff and why?
yeah, that's,
Page 9.
It's on page,
Did I miss that? I looked at this online.
yeah.
it's not in dollars, it's in FTEs.
Yeah, it's just
but-
FTEs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this,
Yeah, can we get the dollars associated to that too?
I'm sorry, get the what?
On page 9, it lists the FTEs,
Yep.
but what are the dollars?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time here.
I'm trying to figure out, it looks like on page 9, if I'm reading it correctly, we're adding 4.2 positions
Mhm.
and I'm trying to figure out what that 4.2 positions costs out of the 1.2 million.
Okay. Scrolling.
Is the occupational therapy, which is the majority is the occupation. Right there.
Okay. We'll circle back to that.
Fine.
All right, so if you look at the next page, the final budget includes one occupational therapist. You got it? You're fast.
No, I'm really not that fast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have 8 FTEs. The change in salary is, the total change in salary is 2.4 million, and of that 2.4 million, the 8 FTEs are, I have a couple columns that are hidden. Here we go. All right, wonderful. Thank you for your patience.
No, it's like four and change.
I'm sorry, I'll come back to it.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Just wanna make sure
Sorry, I wasn't trying to stump the pan.
you're fine.
So this budget includes one occupational therapist, 1.0 occupational certified occupational therapy assistants of 2.8.
And those have already been.
Those were already in, but they weren't in the FY
They
'26.
weren't in the budget, they were in the.
Right, but they are in the FY '27 budget. A business teacher of full-time 1.0 business teacher. This supports, our numbers at the high school are increasing. We need to have another teacher to offer some more options. Also will feed into our career pathways going forward. Behavioral interventionist, that's actually going to be shared between our two preschool kindergarten schools. Athletic trainer, which we've already talked about. Speech language pathologist, and again, we're seeing increase of needing those services of 0.6, and an ESL teacher, English as a second language, of 0.6. Okay? The next page kind of goes through, we're not just adding folks, we are, where we have reductions, we are reducing. If you look under general education, we are, and this is through attrition. Get that out there, I'll say it again, this is through attrition. We are not replacing an elementary teacher, we are adding a business teacher and a 0.6 ESL teacher. For special education, you can see that we are not replacing or moving a position from one school and 2 assistants, and that would,
But that doesn't include the ones that.
and then we have this 0.6 speech pathologist, the behavioral interventionist, and the educational assistant to do inclusion. And then the athletic trainer at the bottom, so that would bring our FY '27 FTE up to 497.55 FTE.
So what's our student population?
Yeah, did I miss it in the deck? And how many students did we have last year? And how many do we have in the coming years? And I assume if we're growing our faculty population, we're growing our student population?
We are having more students choose to go to the high school, yes.
So we have numbers, though, of how many went in the last? I didn't find it in the deck, and I'm just curious.
Yeah, we do.
It's in the back.
Where am I not seeing it?
At the very back.
Oh,
In your binder.
I'm on the
Yeah.
electronic version. Was it in the back of the binder?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
I had to go high-tech this year.
Chris, currently, grades 9 to 12 is at 640 students, expected to go up slightly in each year going forward.
Yeah, it looks like around 5% increase,
Like the third page
26
in
to
the back.
27.
Yep.
And then I'm also, can I make a comment?
Please.
Something near and dear to my heart, which is survivorship of 8th, 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people have noticed that, but it was a real problem back in 21, 22 at 51%. We were one of the lowest in survivorship rates in the state. at that point, and we've actually improved to 73.5%.
Yep.
With a 3-year average of 72%, so that's an awesome improvement.
Yeah, no,
I
there's
just
been,
want to call that out. I mean, it's.
No,
it's-
I appreciate
It was
that.
concerning at the time, and you know, it could have been a blip, no one knew,
yep,
right? There were a lot of things contributing to that, so
Yeah.
it's a good sign.
yeah. The, you know, the program and the coordination between the middle school and the high school is really taking leaps and bounds, and that's, more children are choosing Wilmington High School.
So I just wanted to point out, if I could, that while we are expecting in the next 5 years minor increases in the high school grades, the elementary will be decreasing. So it looks like the elementary that is probably full right now will be moving into the upper grades, and there's going to be less activity coming in behind them.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah, you can see.
'Cause I just glanced at.
Yeah, you can see, you know, and we go through, we start from zero and we go through, and it's like, you know, looking at class size, where do we need to move people? If you go back under general education, you can see we're basically moving an elementary position to the high school for that.
And that is to run a business program,
Right,
Okay.
to expand the building.
to expand it.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you already have one FTE business teacher already? When you
For
go into-
FY '27.
And
We're adding one.
Yes, we're at.
0 now, and you will have one?
Yes.
How many do you have now?
How many do we have?
business teachers?
How many business teachers do we have?
do you
in the
have
high school?
I don't believe we,
Yeah, we have at least one, we have at least one or two. It's to expand the offerings. I'm not sure. Yeah, there are business teachers. It's not, right, so we're expanding the program and adding more, you know, so there's a career pathways, finance career pathway that we want to try to develop. But we have business teachers.
excuse me if I can just answer your question from before. The new positions will cost the district $699,000. And going to your question about enrollment, we assess that every year. We look at the number of children who are in the school, the number of teachers that we have, to make sure that we're appropriately staffed and try to shift accordingly. But from elementary to middle school, we do have a 99% retention rate, so that's awesome.
Good. So I'm assuming that the high school numbers will increase as the tech has tightened up the availability for Wilmington students.
What we've seen is that it follows a traditional trajectory where people going, or children going from 8th grade to 9th grade, they may choose a private school, parochial, or some other vocational school, but we're also seeing an influx back around 10th grade, whether or not the experience wasn't what it should have been, or if they could not maintain this, keep sending the children. But in terms of the enrollment for Wilmington, it's not just like a complete loss from 8th to 9th as we're getting kids back around 10th grade.
Okay.
Quick question. A bit of a crossover question, but I understand that there's been changes to the lottery in terms of the Shawsheen Tech. How does that impact if a student, say, wanted to go to Shawsheen but wasn't able? Is there any number associated with those kids? Say if there's, I'm making it up, if there's 30 that wanted to go but didn't make it,
You
so
don't
now
want to
they're.
take that? Yeah, so there, yes. Yeah, so there is a number of seats that were allocated, and then there will be a lottery where children will be chosen to take those seats.
And that's gotten more difficult this year, right? No?
That has not, the percentages have not changed for our city communities.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to kind of flip up, looking at non-salary changes and looking at non-salary expenses. So of 2026, our non-salary expenses were $10,355,377. For FY27, we are budgeting $11,134,159. And that does represent a 7.5 increase. Special ed tuition, and again, it is going up 402,363. That's a 52% increase. Curriculum and curriculum supplies, 200,343. And part of that is, as part of our collective bargaining agreement, the stipend that goes along with doing PD and leading PD has increased. That's a 26% increase. Special education contracted services, that's the 200,000 that we're taking out of there that'll move over into salary. Professional development, 9% increase at 69,855. Special ed transportation, again, another 9% increase, 68,932. Transportation in general, that's our general bus contract, increases 9%, 68,320. Advisors, these are folks that runs clubs and activities, and again, that's contractual, 57,654. It's a 7% increase. Technology, and that's supplies and equipment, 51,331, it's a 7% increase. Supplies and 4% increase at 27,260. Electricity, 2% increase at 16,757. Membership and dues has also increased. A lot of those are contractual, and that's a 2% increase at 54,400. So when you add all those up, it represents 7.52% of an increase from 26 to 27, and I already said 11,134,000.
On transportation general, that's not busing children from their homes to the schools, correct? It is,
Yeah, well, from their bus stop,
That's yellow buses.
yeah.
so that total is 68,000?
That's the increase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are the increases. No, yeah, yeah. It would be great if it was 68,000. 68,000 is basically one bus, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
As a follow-up to that, is that the current contract, or are you guys under a new contract?
We had the option to extend into a fourth year of the current contract. We've got one more year of being able to extend the contract. So there's 2 option years, and we've used the first of the option year. To go out to bid would have been much more expensive than that.
So the option year was a 9% increase, just to extend.
Yeah. Yeah, if you put it out to bid, yeah, you're right. Put it out to bid, it would be more than that.
Does this include any new buses that, so these are the same amount of buses that we've had? But I know we added a bus last year. Correct, so that includes this
Yes.
added bus.
Yep.
How much was that added bus?
You said 110, that's what I hear behind me.
Yeah.
710 just for one bus?
Yep.
Oh, 110, I thought you said 700.
No, 110.
That doesn't make sense.
That would be purchasing a new bus. Because they're adding a lottery, I'm sure.
Do you have an idea of whether
Over the high school.
we're gonna extend in option year 2?
I would recommend it, so right now, it's about $481, like, per bus, per route, whatever, as you go throughout the year versus other districts which are at $555. Next year, option 2 is at $505, so we're still lower than the current competitors, so I would recommend it. We did recommend, and the school committee approved to extend option 1. I just don't want to make that decision for option 2 since I wouldn't be, eating that decision.
And those option years have a set amount that it goes up? Or is it a
Yes,
percentage?
that is
or-
the
Okay.
set.
It's part of the bid.
So on your non-salary changes, you're saying transportation is going up, the 68,320, it's 9%. But if I look in the budget book under central office, transportation costs $1.4 million, and it says it's going up 4.8%. So why do we have 2 different numbers here?
So transportation, this would be, let me look. I will hopefully provide you an answer in a matter of seconds.
We need pages on this.
I know.
And dividers.
The central office is towards it's after all the schools.
Oh, thank you.
Give me 1 second.
It's the third page in on central office. How about finding this?
Third page of central office.
Allow me a moment so I don't hold up to come back to that, but I will provide you an answer in a matter of seconds.
Okay. While we wait, the special education tuition, I know I'd sent over a question about that, and I appreciated the response. In the past, I thought that the state regulated how much tuition could increase on those schools. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to talk in detail about that process?
Well, it's,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to remember what it was, but I thought it was like 14% a couple years ago, and that was a big jump.
Yeah.
But our day school tuitions, a number of them are going up by like 20% plus. So did the state pull what they were regulating on that, or why are they going up by, why are they showing to go up by so much in our budget?
Well, so there is, kind of a state piece, but there's also the process where they can ask for reconsideration.
Okay.
So they go through reconsideration to get an approval, so it could be more than that 4 or 5%. It is one of the things that the Superintendents and School Committee Association is asking, the state to look at, preferably through the funding model, because it's not keeping, it's well above, it's way above inflation at this point. What is driving that for these schools is staffing. Finding qualified staff to provide the programming is becoming more difficult and driving the cost up. So they're doing reconsideration, what do they call it? Yeah, but they go through a process to do that, to do more. Your collaborative, which is a special ed group that's run, there's districts that feed into that. SEAM is ours, is usually a less cost solution, but again, there is a team process in finding the best fit for the student. Private schools tend to go up more than the public schools, like collaborative.
Okay, and to follow up on the response that you gave, said the net budget tuition variance was approximately $885,000, based off of kind of what we had planned for and what it is.
Yeah.
And so we talked a little bit about the circuit breaker reimbursement on that.
Yes.
But the circuit breaker reimbursement doesn't reimburse the full amount, right? It's a
Correct.
portion of it.
Yes.
So we're gonna draw down on what our revolving account is due to this, right?
Yeah, so good budget planning is basically you take last year's circuit breaker and kind of leave it there so you can use it as an offset for special education going forward, and then the money we would get this year, we would use into next year's budget.
Yep.
The challenge, we're lucky we have circuit breaker, but the challenge is that, it's only 75% of the costs, and it's over a certain amount that you get 75% of that. So it's less what you would educate them for in district, that additional cost, than 75% of that. So there's a lot of conversation about circuit breaker, the numbers, there's a push to have it go to 90%. But that is, I don't know if we will see that, but that is a significant cost driver for districts across the Commonwealth right now.
So, but if I can follow up on that, so as our students, what I'm hearing is that the number of students that receive these significant special ed services are not increasing at a large rate. It's that their complexity continues to grow
Yes.
and require more services, which is understandable, and there, by the grace of God, go anybody in this room who would have a child that would require this level of service. But at the same time, those students have already exceeded the circuit breaker threshold. So these additional services, the state is reimbursing, because these students are above the 3.5 times whatever the student.
Very complicated formula. You
What
only
they
talk
start
about it in city,
reimbursing once the cost of a student exceeds 3.5, I think it's 3.5 times the average cost per pupil, which is probably, I don't know, $70,000, $80,000. And believe me, these kids, there's a lot of them. But my point is that our as the complexity of these students increases and we add staff to support that, those costs should be coming in as a reimbursement. Now, they're not gonna come in as a reimbursement until
That's grants.
they come in during the year. And you kind of put them aside for next year. But the same is happening this year.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is I don't expect you to have this answer, and I apologize, I didn't ask this question in advance. I've been trying to get out of purgatory. But what is the increase from FY '26 to FY '27 of your anticipated offset that you're going to use for special ed costs for this year through circuit breaker? So you're getting more circuit breaker this year than.
Yes. Right, right.
And the governor's been pretty consistent about keeping it at 75%,
Right.
which is,
Yes.
for
Thank
years,
God.
has been
Yeah.
something we've never
Yeah.
been able to predict, but.
Yeah.
We increased the circuit breaker by about 281,000
Okay.
for FY '27, looking at the number of students, looking at where they were, whether or not they were residential, day, collaborative. And when they were aging out, we felt that it was just prudent to increase it by 281,000, in addition to what we have set aside this year, which is 2.5 million. And we feel like that should be able to sustain the district.
Okay, so thank you. So is it fair to say that, so is the $402,000 increase that you're budgeting for special ed tuition, is that net of the $285,000 that you're budgeting? So where's the $285,000 additional offset in this non-salary? I mean, you have to apply that as a negative somewhere, right? As an offset.
It will be applied to either the tuition or the transportation. That's at the discretion. I mean, special education tuition and transportation, so it will be netted.
But wouldn't it be in this, wouldn't it be somewhere, so.
I just don't have it on
my
this
assumption,
particular slide.
And so, I apologize, but I'm just trying to, so what I was assuming is that when you say on slide 11 that your special ed tuitions are going up $402,000, that's before or after so that's before
Before the offset.
circuit breaker.
Right.
So net, your special ed tuition should only be going up because there's an offset of the 100. So where, I guess I'm questioning where that additional $285,000 that you're expecting to offset these costs, where is it in the budget? And then perhaps my question's unclear, and I apologize
No.
for that. I'm still trying to
Yeah, so,
get off of Aruba time.
The central office. Student support services.
So where's the offset? That's the question.
Offset, circuit breaker. Circuit breaker offset here.
It's a bottom line under student services.
So it's included in the total budget somewhere, but it's not included on this page where the money would come.
But these numbers all add up, right? Because you start with, I mean, I hate to tell you this,
So,
but I
all right, let
created
me,
this.
I don't know if this is helping, I don't know if it's hurting, and I do have your answer. But I will deal with
Yeah.
I will, answer your question first. So, when this budget was prepared, we left circuit breaker flat. As we've seen some of the transitions that have happened, we've moved it to 2.8 million. That's what we suspect we will have to increase an additional 300,000. I'm not sure, I will say that, how you're used to seeing the offset in these numbers, but what I do know is that in the overall totality of the budget, the circuit breaker factors in the usage that we anticipate for the year. So again, I'm not,
What's in there, but you just can't tell me where. And
not the exact
as you
breakout.
transition from your line item budget to the summary, you're not sure where it is, but it's in there, is what you're trying to tell me.
Right, it's on the total, but not on the individual lines yet.
Well, it's gotta be in there somewhere, so we have to figure.
So I just want to,
I apologize, I'm in the weeds, but
No,
if it's
no, that's fine. I think you-
285,000 of an offset,
I think you've brought up an excellent point, just in the general presentation, which is very well done. But so that you know, the Finance Committee will take your numbers on your display, and as he just did, go back in
Yes.
and verify that they are itemized or they are identifiable within the budget, so that we can just say, okay, because errors happen, and when you do a PowerPoint, things can be left off unintentionally, or mistakes can be made, and then we'll go to look for something, say, something's not right here. So when you're preparing it next year, the more information to alert us to a number that has a lot of dimensions to it is the better. And also to make sure that anybody on this committee or in the audience could pick that up and go and find it without great trouble. So that's where we are coming from, and that's where some of these questions are originating from.
Got it,
And that's not a criticism of the PowerPoint, it's just, this is the way we work. And the budget is our Bible, so we have to be comfortable that what's in there is what we think is in there.
got it.
Scott's question?
Yes, so on this sheet that we're
I figured it
currently
out,
referring to,
yeah.
you figured it out?
I got there, yeah.
Can we say it for the room?
The percentages on this
with
are
us mortals?
the percentages on this are the percentage
Percentage
change from year to year, not the total in the budget. So
That
it's just
is
the percentages
correct.
for this sheet. Right.
That is correct. Thank you.
It's all in here.
And I guess with that being said, being that this shows the exact changes from year to year, without circuit breaker changing in this initial budget, but us knowing that we need to move it to 2.8, you wouldn't see it in here, because there is no change to it.
Well, I don't agree with that, because the number, the bottom line on page 11 agrees with the bottom line on page 3, and the personnel services that you did earlier agrees with the top, and that ties into the $54 million total that you're requesting, which you says the $54 million total you're requesting takes into consideration the $300,000 plus. So if it's in the summary, it's gotta be in the details somewhere. Because the two details have to add up to the summary, and they do. They-
Right, okay.
Sorry. And I have to tell you, just for full disclosure, I'm the Director of Administration and Finance in Wilmington who kind of created this budget presentation. Tony probably recognizes it because I brought it to Shawsheen. It's very similar. And the thing that people always ask me for 20 years as a superintendent is this 52%. This is 52% of the increase, not 52% increase in the line item. It's responsible for 52% of the increase from 10 million to 11 million. So that's, sorry. So shoot.
Mr. Manager?
I know that we probably have a little bit of time with capital, but if you have a minute, we can make one statement about the budget very quickly. So thank you, I appreciate the moment. As the committee will remember, when we first brought forward the entire budget, the plan was to allocate $300,000 from free cash to support the school budget in this year. Based on a couple of different factors, there's some concern expressed about that by the select board, and because of some of the changes we were able to make in the budget, we no longer require free cash to support the school budget, so we're going to support it just with the tax levy. So that $300,000 will remain in free cash, and the school budget, we're taking it on without the need for that free cash.
What changes created that?
Do you remember we talked about the insurance changes, the errors, the miscalculations that we made on the insurance page that added up to, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we allocated a portion of that to support the school budget, and a much larger portion of those changes to support the Wildwood demolition.
Okay, all right.
Do you anticipate on the next 2 years with the 300,000 that you talked about allocating to the school, that going away also?
Yes.
So for the next 3 years, so that $1 million that we,
It would just be next year, because it was this current year,
this current year, okay.
and then 27, and then 28.
Okay.
But I would anticipate in 28, we won't be spending free cash on it as well. We'll absorb it in the levy.
Okay, thank you.
I just did, before we move on to capital, I did want to say, on a positive note, the level of detail we have here is extraordinary and helpful and transparent. Thank you, school committee. I think it's really important. And the administration, I think it's very important that a $52 million K-12 education budget has to have a lot of transparency. I hope this information is posted on websites so that it can be made available to the public, because I think it's important to provide that. And I just wanted, I think it's important to say we are getting a lot of detail about the school budget that is not common. I can tell you, I've presented to a lot of finance committees. I'd be lying if I told you I ever provided this level of detail to I would never provide individual salaries in a public document if I could avoid it, because it's just demeaning to staff, I think. But it's available, it's always available.
Public
but-
record, yeah.
Yep, it's always public record, but don't have to make it easy. But thank you, I just think this is very, very well done and very detailed, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll have to be honest and say I had nothing to do with the spreadsheets. That was this gentleman's job, but he did a great job. You should see him flash through formulas, so I get busy. You know, and as you go through the materials you have, if you have questions, we are always open to answering them, trying to make sure everybody has clarity and understanding.
You're not gonna
School
say-
budgets are
I
a
wanna know
little bit
where they
like
are.
shifting sands, but, you know, we are there to answer any other questions that you folks have.
I have just a question. Well, first of all, we need dividers in this. This is, we spend a lot, we spend a lot of time
We'll have to see if that's
page by
currently in the
page.
budget, but we'll add it to the list.
We were
Not
spoiled.
a problem, not a problem.
Spoiled. So grants, I had asked for a list of grants, and you also sent across lists of grants we did not receive because of the MBTA issue. To save me from going page by page, I did eyeball some of these departments, and what I was looking at is if we got a grant for a line item, where was I seeing it? And so I was picking up a few of them. I just want to confirm that every grant item is associated with a line item in your budget. And then I also want to ask, when you have the recommended budget, and you have a number recommended FY '27, and then you have a grant column, which number carries forward? The net of the grant against the original budgeted item total?
The recommended budget number carries forward.
So the grant does not.
The grant does not, the grant is separate. We don't know whether or not, that's not determined by the town, that's determined, since that's determined by the state. We hope that we're gonna receive a certain amount of funding for the following year, which could always change depending on what policy
Okay.
and whether or not the state has the ability to fund it.
All right, so these are like hope grants. You hope you get them.
Yes, this is a continuation
Okay.
of where we are right now, what
Okay,
the resources we're currently allocated.
okay. So then, when you do get them, where does that money go? Because now that's found money.
It's supplemental to the budget, so basically there's this rule that most states have, which is support, not supplant. So the recommended budget is the complete operations of what is needed for the district, what you must provide, and the grants are supportive of that, but the grants cannot take the place of something that's mandated or needed. It's supposed to be, in the absence of these funds, can you provide the services? So it's additional too.
So maybe, Mr. Manager, you could explain that for me. I'm trying to trace those dollars. So you put in your budget, the town allocates that, and you have everything you need.
Yes.
Then you get some grant money.
Yeah, so what I believe that they're saying is that grant money is used to add additional services,
Correct.
not to offset existing, so you
So
can't.
you expand the budget when you receive grant money.
Yes, because you can't use grants to offset costs that were required
You
to.
have to, right.
I don't know, we're kind of talking, we're talking a lot of, the 94-142 grant through SPED, which is a federal, grant passed through Massachusetts to take their percent, and then is in what's called an entitlement grant, which used to be true until the Department of Education in Washington was put on the chopping block. But those monies, you actually sent us something, I glanced at it, in the airport, that you used to fund
Yeah,
20 ed assistants.
yeah, 30.
So
Yep.
so you're not asking us to raise money for 20 ed assist, this is where I really think it's important. We're not, in the budget, those ed assistants are not part of the taxation budget.
Right.
They're off, you
They're
have
in-
that, you
right,
have that.
they're in the grant
that
budget,
94-142 money
Right,
as an offset somewhere.
right,
That is correct.
yeah.
That's the question you were
Right.
asking, right?
So like the, you know, the special ed has its own special ed grant has its own budget that we have to get approved by DESI, and then we spend out of that account. It doesn't
Okay, so
touch.
that's the missing link, because there's another budget being run that we're not privy to.
It's through the federal government, through the state.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But, so, we would need to have that, we want to understand where the money is going. So, where it's coming from, where it's going, how is it being recorded? That's basically what we're just trying to do. So, that enlightens me in realizing that there is a lot of money that's moving outside of this budget, and we should know about that.
Yeah,
So-
we can go into the wonderful grants portal and pull out those budgets, but that is not, I mean, it's taxpayer money, but it's not local
I
money.
understand.
It's federal
Right.
money.
But it's still money that's coming into the town. It's affecting the
Yeah.
education in Wilmington.
Yep.
And without that, you can imagine that we're walking around thinking, this is it. We're spending X number of dollars
Yeah.
on the children of Wilmington, and everything is fine. Unbeknownst to us, we realize that there is grant money moving throughout the system, but as Brad mentioned, some of the numbers are significant. If you can hire 30 assistants, that's a significant amount of money. So we just want to capture that. You know, we're not trying to delve down too deep into it, but we really should be able to say, however, off to the side, there's this other action going on, and that is benefiting our children as well.
Yeah, well, and it might help people understand the role of the U.S. Department of Ed and what that funding means for every local district across the country.
Just in transparency, I do understand that this is sometimes difficult to follow. The grants do show within the budget. They're just backed out of the total ask from the town.
Right.
There is a grant section on every tab, every school, and it relates to, like IDEA, where we show 30 educational assistants across the district, 2 preschool positions for ECE, and there's also a grants page. So it is like all in here, but what we can do to make it easier, I believe, is to provide that actual budget summary that comes out of GEMS, which is a DESI-like download that says, oh, this is it in a nutshell. It's kind of segmented within the budget, so it's hard to like trace back 80 steps to one, but we can provide that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Because this is, again, I apologize, I hadn't looked at this beforehand, but on your first summary budget page, the third page into this presentation, the 4th column from the far right is your recommended FY '27 budget.
Yes.
Then next to that is FY '27 grants. So there's an additional, almost $1.9 million.
Yes.
That that if you don't get, we're in a load of hurt. That's, so, and that's true of every town in Massachusetts. But my point is that there is some level of transparency about this, but, I just think I don't know if this is the best way to present it, I'd have to think about that, but this is helpful. It is clear in your line items. And then what you're doing is you're just focusing your presentation on the
Non-grant.
non-grant
Yeah.
allocations. Right.
Correct.
Because if that 94-142 or IDEA grant didn't come in, that's 20 people those people, they're providing mandated services to our students.
Yep.
Those people would have to be picked up by the town budget like that. That's not debatable. Those people are providing mandated law-required services, so. All right, I see your question, though. It's hard to present, you don't want to go between total costs and who do you ask to find, how do you focus your finance committee presentation? You're asking the town for?
Right.
Yeah. Those two columns are actually never added up for like total FY '27 costs,
Correct.
which, there's a lot of columns here, obviously, but that's helpful, though. So it's there.
Go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, but is it safe to say that that $1.9 million is potentially more at risk this year versus prior years, given our MBTA zoning position?
Is that?
It's
I
federal.
wouldn't
Is that
say
federal?
that.
Money that's different?
Federal
Okay.
money, right?
It was a question, I wasn't.
Yeah, there has been significant resistance about, the grants coming back to cities and towns. The question is, who's overseeing it?
Right.
And what are the requirements, and what are the rules around it, and all those other things, and whether it's punitive, depending on which state you're in,
Yeah.
whether they're gonna hold the money. They did try to do that last fall. Federal government was gonna hold grants for money that was already promised the spring before. There was a suit, and they lost, and we got the money, but that was a deep concern, so people should pay attention, because that, asking a town to come up with $1 million,
Right.
all of a sudden is a big chunk of change.
So you sent out, and I appreciate it, a list of grants that we did not receive, that in everything else being the same, you would have expected to receive it, except for the fact that we're not in compliance with the MBTA zoning regulations. It looks to me like between $245,000 to $395,000 that in 1 year,
Yep.
the town missed out on.
Yep.
For schools only.
Yep.
Thank you for
And,
providing that.
You're welcome, and one of those was a big hit. We were supposed to get the second layer of the career pathways expansion grant, so we are struggling to complete that work, so.
So they cut you off not mid-grant, but they didn't give you the second year of a 2-year grant.
Yep.
Wow, that's
Cold.
really, I understand new grants, but that's kind of a commitment, that was a 2-year commitment the state made to us. And they're not giving us the second year of the money, which we don't even have to apply for. It's a 2-year, wow.
Yep.
That's getting pretty aggressive.
Yep.
Holy smokes.
Are we ready to move to capital?
Capital?
Somebody wants to tell me where it is?
Last page, very last one.
That's good. I like that.
Don't need a tab for that.
I like that answer.
Look good.
Good luck, Chris.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions on that?
Capital.
Do you have any questions on that?
Well, I do, actually.
Yep, too fast, too
Okay,
fast.
so the capital is found
There we go.
on the last page.
Yep, there
Yep,
we go.
I'm sorry?
you good?
Yep. All right, so, I could just go through the list. I don't know if people have specific questions, but for FY '27, we're asking for $130,000 for a laptop replacement, $80,000 to replace one of the minivans, those are the smaller transportation for special education. Minivan 2, $80,000, 14-passenger transit van at $90,000, miscellaneous PC, personal computer replacements, 25,000. Pre-K to 3 teacher laptop replacement at 205,000. Furniture and whiteboard replacement, 50,000. STEM equipment, 30,000, and that's in there in a couple. It's in there again in FY '29, I believe. Right, '29, and that's to make sure we have the STEM equipment we need on both sides of the district. Electrical auditorium screen that was had failed this past year, so we need to replace it. $18,500. Security improvements, that's everything from door locks and cameras and such, $45,000. So those are the capital requests.
Furniture and whiteboard replacement, what school's that for?
I think that's generally across the district. Obviously, we're not going to put a lot of, replacing things in schools. We're eventually going to be mothballing. But yeah, there are, I mean, you still have got 2 years before that school is going to open. And if a whiteboard is failing, you do need to replace it.
The security improvements, what does that entail?
That would include key access, cameras, replacing servers for cameras.
And is that across the district, or is that in certain schools?
So pretty much, this will cover everything that is outside from the server side of the security devices, like panic buttons, security cording for classroom doors, in order to teacher, when they close a door in the classroom. Let's say we have, God forgive us, right, an event happening in that specific school. They can close the room just by clicking, so we're changing those locks. That way they don't need an actual key to close the door. Again, the curtain that will block the view inside the classroom. So those type of things around the district.
Okay, and that's gonna be installed in every school?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like, for $45,000, it doesn't seem like that would cover all of those
Yeah, well,
improvements.
it's more of replacing and, because the door locks get old.
Yeah.
The cameras stop working. So a lot of it is they fail to replace the electronic locks and
Okay,
such.
so let's back up a minute. Do all of the schools in the district have the same security in place? Do we have, every classroom has locking doors?
Yep.
You have enough cameras in every school?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we build newer schools, you tend to build more cameras into them than older schools, but we have cameras.
Talk about the ones that, the older
Yes,
schools.
we have the cameras where we can put the cameras, yes. You have them outside of the doors, you have them in some hallways, especially at the high school and middle school. And the buzzer to buzz people in and out of buildings.
All door locks are all done in every school throughout the district?
Yep.
Do we have cameras on the peripheral of the building? Like the back of the building, that type of thing?
I don't know.
And you don't have to actually answer me, because I don't want to be discussing that
Right.
in public, where you do and do not have certain protections. But that's something that would be a concern for me, and everybody in this community, that we want to make sure that we have every single thing that we need to keep children safe and our educators safe. So I guess I asked a question, but I'm asking you not to answer it.
So yeah, pretty much every building in our district is covered, at least the front back doors. Everything like a 360 outside. In the improvement one is when we want to add more to cover
Okay.
those areas to kind of black inside the buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Right.
So it sounds like the general questions are, is this for updating, or is this for net new? And to me, it sounds like the answer is yes, both.
Yes, both, yeah,
That's
yes. You're
kind of
looking,
what it comes down.
you're looking to update and replace, and you're looking to expand where needed.
Yeah. And the follow-up question is, this is of utmost importance, is that enough money to
Right.
accomplish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
well, I
that's-
think, think the key thing is that you have it on a regular piece. And there's some pieces that we have in our budget as well, but yeah, and see a little bit of fluctuation in that in the next couple of years when you have a new school with new technology put in, so that money might focus on replacing things in other places.
Yeah, they have 50,000 slated for FY '28 for security camera replacement, and 50,000 slated for FY '29 for security camera
Oh, I didn't even
replacements,
see that,
about
yeah.
4 lines above that.
Yeah,
So this is an ongoing, it looks like,
Yeah.
process.
okay.
I-
I'm sorry, go ahead. Did you have another question?
Sorry, I have another question, which is, it's interesting to me. 2027 Chromebooks are showing as 0, lighting upgrade is 0, study of BOSS and WE, I don't know what that is, but that's showing up as 0. It seems to me those maybe were items that were in 2027 that we pushed out. Is that true?
That is correct.
They're there, they were there with an actual item, we decided to push it out a year. So I think that's important for everyone to acknowledge as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, we've made a decision, we don't need it in '27.
Right.
Right? We're pushing it out, but we're coming back in a year for a '28 budget.
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
I mean, obviously to build trust and reliability, you want to ask for what you actually need. And if you don't, if you can delay it a year, you do, and sometimes there's priorities that pop up that you need to push something off if you can, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
The,
That's how you get
14
4.94% increase in your operating budget.
Right.
the 14-passenger van, is that the one that we bought for athletics to transport smaller teams?
Yeah, I think that van would have the possibility of doing that after it does the job one, which is delivering kids, but yes,
Okay, so,
yeah.
We
So
do-
you're like your golf team, instead of trying to.
exactly, right.
Instead
A
of
smaller
renting a
group.
giant bus, you could use
Yeah.
the 14 passenger.
Okay,
Part of that is scheduling,
okay.
but yes. But even if you did that for half the time, you're saving money.
You're saving money.
Okay, well, I would just, my comments on the capital requests is, I would just say that, and I'm sure this is a shared feeling, I would much rather spend money on security for the buildings today and put off buying laptops, even though they are, very important for the educating. But nothing is more important in my mind than security and protecting these children. So when I see line items going out that look like, are they new, they're identified as replacements, so I'm kind of picking on that, but the gist of it is that I really want to make sure that we are not putting off one day making kids safe. Everything else here will survive going an extra year.
Yeah.
That's my only comment.
Well, and this is a, I mean.
And I'm
we-
sure it's a shared feeling.
Right, I mean, we've got a pretty good level here in Wilmington as far as those devices out there, and again, I don't want to get into too much.
Right.
But, who knows, we might see a need or a great improvement, and you might see that number change 2 years down the road, so, this is where we're projecting, sitting here right now for the next 5 or 6 years. Next year, that could change, so,
And it's not something that you really want to get into too much detail with.
true.
So we don't know, we're not in the schools, and we have to rely on, you telling us that we're in good shape. I'm just going back to several years ago when there was quite a bit of public outcry over the lack of security, and I just wanted to get from that point in my mind to where we are today. And if you're telling me that we're in a good spot, then I have to take that.
Yep, we are in a good spot. There was a security audit that was done a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And, we're also working through that as well.
And I think it's important to remember, we have a reasonably new high school,
Right.
that was built with these issues in mind. So it was designed around security, just like our new elementary school is going to be
Right.
designed with security in mind. Schools were not designed with security in mind, so
Right.
replacing them, even the middle school 20 years ago was designed with security in mind. So,
Right.
we
Yeah, definitely. A lot has changed in how we put buildings together now than we did.
Anthony, did you have a question?
On the vehicle topic, it looks like, if I'm understanding this asked correctly, these are straight up cash purchases
Yeah.
happening in FY '27. We're not spreading any kind of loan across '28, '29.
Right, these are obviously it costs the town less not to borrow money especially for rolling stock, so that's what that is.
So it's roughly $370,000 that's happening of the 753. So it's about half. We're saying it's worth it to pay in cash up front to own them outright as opposed to spread that over a
Yeah,
loan.
or to hire a private company to do the work for you.
Yeah, I imagine that.
Yeah, because
that
you're paying.
those vehicle loans are
right, 'cause
probably
you're
8%.
paying them
yeah.
to buy the vehicle
Right.
and pay for the vehicle and staff the vehicle plus the profit margin on top of it, so, yes.
Okay, any other questions? No, we got a lot accomplished today. Thank
All
you
right,
both
good.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, if you have, you're digging through the book, which I know Brad will do, but if you're digging through the book, and you have a question, please, let us know. We will get you an answer. We want to make sure you have all the information you have to make the best decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the
you.
rest of your weekend.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So if I could have a roll call, please, to approve
Steven.
the adjournment of the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's come back in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everybody. If I could please have a vote to re-adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're back in business. Welcome to the Shawsheen Tech.
Good morning. I think most of you know who I am, but my name's Tony McIntosh. I am the superintendent at Shawsheen Tech, and thank you for having us back again. I'm joined by Mr. Charlie Fiore, who is one of the Wilmington representatives on Shawsheen Tech School Committee. We were able to get set up, so we do have our budget to present here. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to just throw a couple of talking points out there, if you will, for people to keep in mind as we go through this. It's been discussed earlier in the meeting about our move to admissions. So there are some adjustments in this. We have added some additional special ed funding. Again, not knowing what the impact of that lottery is going to be on our class coming in September. We wanted to have some contingencies there to make sure that we were prepared to support all of those students. We also, in this budget, which some of you may have already reviewed, we are hopeful to be moving forward with an MSBA project, so we did include some funding in there for some consultants as part of what we have proposed, and if this project moves forward, we'll look at adding a couple of more technical programs, and there is a whole process to research and submit that information to the Department of Ed, so that's in this budget. FY '27 will be the first year of a new busing contract for us, and we did see some significant increases in that. We exhausted our 5th-year option and had to go out to bid. Health insurance is a big driver in our budget. It went up 10% for us this year. That has an impact. So FY '26 was the first year of new collective bargaining agreements across the board. We had created another bump out. It wasn't a full column in our contract as an incentive, and we found that there are a lot more staff that took advantage of that have gone back and earned those additional credits to move over, so that has had an impact in our budget. One of the things that our interim business manager has done this year is built into the salary schedules all of the stipends and longevity pay and everything else that individuals receive from the district. So it is a more accurate reflection, person by person and department by department. We don't really have a lump of like, here's the money we paid department shares, here's the money we pay longevity. It is all broken out now by individuals. The other thing to throw out there, and this is in the introductory letter, we did absorb 2 positions that had previously been funded by a grant. We're calling it a SOAR program. It follows the BRIGHT reentry model. Some of you may have heard that or be familiar with it. It's a program to help students that have been on any type of long-term hospitalization or mental care to transition back into school and to be successful and get back into their daily life and make up any of the work and things that they've missed. One departure, if you will, from what we've typically done in the past, our FY27 budget does include all of our capital requests. We also do have a warrant article request that we've been working through to help fund our MSBA feasibility study. Wilmington share of that would be up to $311,771. We are still working to get E&D certified. And I'm going to speak for the committee because we've been in those meetings and those conversations. It is our intent to use as much of the E&D certification to offset those costs as we can. But we didn't want to make a commitment without having those E&D numbers in hand. And we also couldn't wait until that certification came in to put this request out to the towns because we know all of you have to plan for town meeting. You have to get the warrant articles on there. So we intentionally have been working with the town managers and said not to exceed X number of dollars. And hopefully as we get closer to town meeting, we will have those numbers to say, this is exactly what we need. In a perfect world, we could come back and say, we found the funding ourselves. I won't make any promises around that, but that would be our ultimate goal if we can manage that through our E&D certification. So, questions on that before I kind of jump in and go through the book or the presentation?
Okay, go on.
Again, here's our introductory letter. I already covered a lot of the stuff that was in here. The other thing that I will bring up is we have put the regional transportation total assessment amount back in our budget. There was a change last year in the way that we did that. Our interim business manager did some research, our regional agreement, and based on the opinion of the Department of Ed's finance department, we should have been assessing the full amount last year instead of reducing by the offset and only including the difference in our budget. So we have made that change. That in itself looks like a 4.38%. And again, that's just the nuances of how that has now been brought back in. And we will continue to do that moving forward because after getting that direction and saying this is the way that it should have been done, we made that correction. Table of contents, again, I'm sure people have had a chance to review the book at this point. Our timeline, you are our first Finance Committee meeting. This budget was approved, I believe, last Tuesday night by the whole school committee, so we're glad to be here, and we're glad we were able to get here early in the process so that all of you can get your questions answered and plan accordingly as you move forward in Wilmington. Budget distribution, again, like most schools, the majority of our budget goes to instruction, cost of instructors, materials, supplies, services that we contract out with third parties. Fixed costs would be heating, bond payments, other things along those lines, capital projects. I'm sorry, bond payment shouldn't be in fixed costs. That's heating, facilities, building maintenance, insurance. Capital projects are building improvements. I know all of you have heard me say in the past, we're in a 55-year-old building. Those needs continue to increase, and we don't see any light on the horizon. If anything, our needs for capital projects is going to continue to increase if we do not get moved forward with a possible building project. And then debt service, I know we've talked about this in the past. That is the athletic field build-out / renovation that went on probably about 10 years ago now. We are getting towards the end of that, but there is still a bond outstanding for that. So the total, and again, this is not Wilmington's share of this, but the total Shawsheen Tech budget for FY27 is $44,338,798.
I have a question for
Yep.
you. On this page, it says capital projects, $881,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to the following page, it says final capital requests, $1.5 million. What am I missing?
So we add the debt service on that. We include the debt service as part of our capital budget. And then on that next page, you'll also, well, I don't know if it's on that next page, but when we get to it, we also offset that with grants in our revolving accounts. So the total capital budget's 1.5. We then back what we expect to get for the Perkins Act out of that, which is about $160,000. And then we back out the revolving accounts. I can show you that a little further in the presentation.
Okay,
It
yeah.
may make more sense.
So that's a great example of how, when you combine numbers, not just you personally, when the preparer combines numbers, the people that are receiving the information have no idea what you've done.
Where it comes from.
We don't know. And like I said earlier, when we had the Wilmington schools in, we're taking your budget and we're taking your introduction pages and your narratives, and we're going back into the budget, and we're trying to make sure that we're seeing exactly what we expect to see. So sometimes you don't see it because there's been other things done that we're just not aware of. So you have a lot of knowledge about how you're moving these numbers around, and you're not thinking, they're not going to be able to follow this.
Yep.
And we're at home being very frustrated because we can't follow it. So
My apologies.
if you
It's
can
not our
help, if you
intent.
can help ongoing, just even though it does make things a little bit more complicated maybe on a page, but we can't be jumping from one number to another and just saying, well, I don't know why it's like that, and move along. We can't do that.
Again, hopefully as we get further into this, that I know there is
Okay.
a summary page for FY '27 capital that I think will show
Okay.
where that number comes from. Yeah.
All righty.
Again, the capital budget here, again, we're assessing $1,327,379 to our communities. That's what we're asking the 5 communities to give us. The Perkins grant, again, is $126,074 is what we're anticipating getting in FY '27. We intend to use $57,500 from some revolving funds. We do have some shop programs that generate their own income, so we'll offset those costs with that. And again, then the total of that budget would be $1,511,053 is what we'll spend in total on capital next year. Again, just to give people a sense of where we started, we've added a 3rd year to this. I think that was actually a request of this committee at one point in time. So you can see, we do not honor every single request that comes in. We do our best to prioritize what we need in any given fiscal year. We're also looking to a future year or future years to make sure that we're trying to be conscientious. Our FY '27 capital budget ask or assessment to our sending communities did go up about $200,000. But again, we're kind of trending similar to what we have the last 3 years. Here's a slide. I know you're concerned about Wilmington's share and Wilmington's piece of this. This does break down the assessment for all 5 of our sending communities. We actually changed the format of this slide a little bit this year. I personally think it's a little bit easier to follow. I don't know if all of you found it that way. We started with, this is the absolute total we need to do everything we're gonna do in fiscal year '27, which is the $44,338,798. We backed out $1,323,733. That's the cherry sheet estimate from the Chapter 70 Department of Ed numbers that came out in January. We are not intending in using any excess and deficiency for the budget, for the actual operating budget. The state has allocated $7,092,348 to us in Chapter 70 aid. The $520,000 goes back to Mr. Jackson's with Wilmington Public Schools. That's our IDEA money, Title I, Title III, some other things that we get. So again, we're anticipating getting about $520,000 next year to offset those salary costs in our budget, which means that the total amount that we're going to be assessing to our communities for FY '27 is $35,402,717,000. If you go down to the bottom, it does break it out by capital, the required minimum contributions that the state sets. The regional operating agreement is based on the document that governs us as a regional vocational school, and it actually spells out how capital and operating budgets are assessed to our sending communities. And then obviously the last column is the total amount assessed to the community. So Wilmington's FY27 number, based on all these calculations, is $7,348,306. Excuse me. Current enrollments. I heard earlier that there are more students in Wilmington that are opting to go to Wilmington High. I think that's great. I address many groups of students and parents and do all kinds of open houses and stuff like that. One of the first things I say to all of those groups is Shawsheen Tech is not for everybody. We want students and families to make informed decisions. We want you to see what we offer and how we operate and what we do. And if this is the best fit for you and your child, we welcome you. We hope we can support you. But if it's not, we understand that too. And not everybody has the same goals and the same paths. And we're here to try to support everybody in those pursuits. You can see our numbers are trending up. Actually, I need to correct that FY27 number. It actually is 1283. There is an error in that book, so I do apologize. That did not get caught in all the proofreading we did. So again, we are pretty much on parallel with where we were with FY26. And we are down a little bit from where we were in FY25. And these are all based on October 1st enrollments. So our FY27 budget is based on October 1st of 2025. And I know that's always a little confusing. It's a little confusing for people in education. It's confusing for people that aren't in education, but it's always about a year and a half removed from when those attendance numbers are captured. One thing I do want to comment on here, and again, this hasn't had the same impact on Wilmington this year as it has the others. The state tells us what the required minimum contribution is by community. And they look at property taxes, they look at hotel and venue income, they look at how many new homes or new apartments were built. They have a whole funding formula that goes into this. What we saw this year across the board, I think it was about a $1.2 million increase that the state said we are reducing our Chapter 70 aid. The expectation is that your communities will pick up about $1.2 million additional dollars in funding.
Wow.
We have zero control over that. Again, as Superintendent Thompson had said, I know there's a lot of advocacy from the school committee group, from the superintendent's group, from the special ed administrators group to look at that funding formula and try to make some changes to it. Whether that happens in the short term or even in the long term, we'll have to wait and see.
Can we just go back to the previous slide with the current
This one?
enrollment?
Yep.
So you said that was 1283 in that FY27 number?
Let me just double check, but I believe that.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It is 1293.
Okay,
I
yeah, it totals to
apologize.
1293,
Yep.
so I was trying to figure out where the difference was. Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
I mixed up my numbers, my apologies. 1293 is correct.
So it's wrong on the slide, but right on the piece of paper, on the.
No, the slide's correct. The slide says
That's correct.
1293.
The years are
it's
going,
backwards,
and the,
okay.
yeah, the
Yeah.
years
Years
are
are-
backwards.
Yeah, it caught me too at first.
Sorry about that. Any questions on the?
No, that was it. I was just trying to
Thanks, Scott.
figure it out.
Again, here, the FY26 to FY27 assessment comparison, again, this is what we're asking our sending communities. You can see there's a $2,342,258 difference. A lot of that, like I said, is driven by the fact that the state has said that the required minimum contributions for all of our communities needed to increase. Wilmington's assessment from 26 to 27 is going down. I will say a lot of that is driven by the change in the number of Wilmington students that are enrolled with us. So while we're asking you for less money, it is not really an apples to apples comparison, if you will, to what we had in the past. And again, that's seems to be the trend the past couple of years for us. I don't know if it was quite as high of a reduction last year as it was for this year, but it seems like every year the state is telling our communities that their required minimum contribution is going up, and Chapter 70 kind of stays level or even for the most part. Capital assessments, again, this breaks it down for communities. So if you were to look at Wilmington's share of just the capital budget, it's $259,160. And the minimum required contribution plus the piece that's broken out in our operating budget, if you will, for Wilmington is $7,089,146. Here's a little crosswalk, if you will, with the FY27 budget. Again, with putting the transportation back in, it does look like a 6.0, well, it doesn't look like, it is a 6.09% increase. When you back that 4.38% out, that should have been in there last year, but was offset in a different way, it's about a 1.71% increase over where we were last year. We knew we were coming forward to potentially ask for support with a feasibility study. We were very conscientious about trying to hold down costs, not add any positions in this budget, not do anything like that. How long we can hold off on that, and if we can do the same thing next year, time will tell. But we were trying to be good citizens if we could, because we know that there's other constraints and other demands on funding in all of our communities. So again, if you look at the capital assessment, like I said, it went up about $200,000. It does reflect a big increase, 15.83%. The operating budget, excuse me, increase of 6.77%. The required minimum contributions on the state level, 4.93%. Chapter 70 aid went up 1.39. I did the math. I think it's an increase of about $92,000, which to me is not super helpful. So I do hope they look at that formula, because when you look at some of our more urban communities in the state, they have benefited greatly from the Student Opportunity Act, and they've received a whole bunch of funding that hasn't trickled out into the suburban and the rural areas the same way that it has into some of our bigger cities in metropolitan areas. Regional transportation aid, again, this is, please don't be alarmed by that number. That's building back into the budget, what should have been in there last year. And then, again, the other things that we did last year, we are not carrying forward into the FY27 budget, so you see that they're reduced by 100%.
Can we go just to that 750, just if you go back one slide, the 750 you ended up not doing, right?
Yes. And again, we had anticipated getting a significant chunk certified in E&D last year. When we were all done with the process, the Department of Revenue gave us the number. We did not have the $750,000 to move into the stabilization fund. Late June, I want to say it was like June 26th, 27th last year, we had an emergency school committee meeting to vote and make those changes, which then I informed the town managers that we weren't going to move forward with those transfers.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. For your capital budget, and again, typically we bring 4 to 5. My apologies, we've been operating with an interim business manager. We prioritize trying to get things updated for this year and really focus on FY27. We do have a new vocational director this year who is working on a little bit more of a more robust process, if you will, for our shop teachers and lead teachers to provide input into this. We will add this as we move through the spring, but we just didn't have it ready for the budget to come out, and we didn't want to hold our budget up for something that isn't going to happen for 4 or 5 years down the road. So, whoops, again, it looks like there's a duplicate slide in there.
No, it's the second page. It's the second page.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm sorry.
Can we go back to that one, since we're going to go through this?
This page, Brad?
Yep. So Tell me about maintenance, because there's always this understand, there's always this, just not disagreement, but conversation about whether something belongs in the operating budget, or whether it belongs in a capital budget. And your operating budgets are allocated different than your capital budgets are, so it's important in this case to do that. So what does that entail?
So
Because that's a big,
I went
that's a
forward a
big
couple
number.
more pages, just so if people that are trying to track this, but for FY '27, those maintenance requests, is the purchase of a utility vehicle. We have a Gator there that I think is probably from around when I was in high school, that has definitely outlived its useful lifespan, so we're looking to replace that vehicle. There's money in there for carpet removal and tiling of library hallway. That's a high traffic area for us. We've replaced the carpet numerous times. It just doesn't hold up. It needs something different in that area. Plumbing repairs, again, 55-year-old building. We are lucky, we have a couple of staff members that come in and will work during the shutdown week to help us keep costs down, but that involves, putting in shut-off valves, cutting in, drain lines, doing other things like that, so that, if, God forbid, in the middle of the winter, we had a pipe freeze up, we don't have to shut the whole building down, we can then isolate a wing or an area or a hallway to make those repairs. Exhaust fans, that's ongoing. I think there's upwards of 60 exhaust fans on the roof of that building. It was built in that early 70s architectural style where it's spread. Well, it's probably a quarter of a mile from one end of the building to the other. So we have all of those fans that we try to replace on a regular basis and keep up with. The ductless heat pumps, again, we have some areas that we've renovated and done different things with. We typically try to utilize those in areas where the heating and ventilation system either can't access or we have a problem with. So we will, instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on HVAC repairs, we typically will outfit a classroom or an area of the building with a mini split and provide heating and cooling with the mini split. FMC is the actual, we have a computerized management system that lets the maintenance techs even access from home, and they can look and see, is a fan running, what's the water temperature in this heating unit, what's the temperature in the gym, versus what's the temperature in the front of the school. So that's been an ongoing upgrade. We've been spending somewhere between $35,000 and $45,000 a year. I want to say we're probably about 2 years into that, and we probably have another year or two before we get all of that stuff. That's one of those things that it's next to impossible to replace the whole system at once, just because everything has to be synced and all of those things have to talk to each other and do all of those things. So we've been progressing through that. And then the big item here on this, the pool pack is actually the heating, water conditioning, and environmental air unit for our swimming pool. That is not the full cost. That's probably a little less than half. And our pool revolving fund will contribute the balance to replace that unit. And that is something that we pushed. That was in last year's capital budget. When we didn't get the E&D certification number that we wanted, that we thought we were going to get, we pushed that to this year. So it's really important that we take care of that. Without that, we really can't use that pool facility.
And that's coming from a revolving account?
Yes.
No,
next year's.
The balance.
Next year's,
Or
okay,
balance, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I was-
no,
okay.
the pool, the 250 is from the budget.
That's capital,
And then the
yeah.
rest
Right.
is,
The balance will come from the revolving.
will come from the revolving. So it's a $400,000 project.
Probably,
then,
yep.
if I recall. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. I was trying to go back to the ones that I skipped over. So here's our 4-year summary, page 2. I think that's where Mr. Jackson's original question came from. Again, I can go through the FY27 request line by line. I'm assuming that all of you have looked at it. I believe the only 2 technical programs in here that are not slated to get something next year are plumbing and metal fab. Metal Fab, we're in the middle of about $1.5 million grant-funded renovation. I don't know that we're gonna need too many capital investments in that program for a few years to come. And then plumbing, I'm sorry, it's not plumbing, it's medical technology didn't have any requests that they submitted for FY27. But other than that, again, we try to share the funding, share the love, if you will, and make sure that all of our programs, and again, these go to kind of one-time big item or big ticket purchases to support the technical programs to make sure that they have the tools, equipment, and machinery that they need to continue the training that they provide. Again, we're on to page 2 here of the FY27 one, and back to Ms. Manginelli's question from earlier, the $1,327,379 is what we're assessing to our communities. The $57,600 is what we're planning or had budgeted to use out of revolving funds, and the $126,074 is what we anticipate from Perkins, which is, again, the federal funding for CTE programs.
So how come you didn't include the revolving for the pool pack?
That's a great question, and I don't have the answer for you right this second. But,
Just-
yeah.
It's probably just for future.
Yep.
You still got 4 more of these presentations to make, so. Will be your dry run.
I just wrote myself a note, pool pack revolving. Again, I can answer questions about future year items. I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time discussing them. I will say you're gonna see some big numbers on some of these future years, but typically what ends up happening is when we actually get to that year, we have those conversations. Sometimes that equipment has been purchased through a grant or through some type of renovation. Sometimes those shop programs make a change in where they wanna go. Sometimes we have a turnover in staffing and something that was requested 2 or 3 years ago. The people that have come in or the new staff are like, that's not really the direction I want to go in. I would prefer to do this instead. So we always kind of year by year really look hard at those and make sure that it reflects where we are and what we need. Starting on page 21, there are some year-to-year department comparisons, if you will. We are also, and again, as I said earlier, we are now allocating salary stipends, longevity pay, and other things like that in different ways. So there are some I won't say wild swings, there are some swings in percentages, but a lot of that is that cleanup process where we want to have the same approach to everybody and do it the same way across the board and to make it more predictable for us as we move from year to year so that we know who's where and how those salaries work out. I know I was here last year and said that we had moved all of the paraprofessional salaries into the special ed budget. We found out that that was not the case. There were a couple of them that were still kind of standalones or were isolated in different places. So I know when you look at the special ed budget, it looks like there's a pretty big jump there, especially in the para salaries. That includes, I want to say, at least 6 people, maybe 7, depending upon where their salaries were pulled from before. So again, as we go through these things, please keep that in mind. Again, building costs obviously have gone up. We really did a deep dive into fixed costs as far as electricity, gas usage, trash, other things like that. Went back 3 years and looked at what we had actually spent for all of those things. So there are some adjustments, but they're based on historical data that we had that we pulled. So again, we think that this is a much better reflection, a more accurate reflection of everything that we need as a district to move forward in FY27. Again, I can go page by page. I think it may be a better approach for us if people have specific questions and you want to ask questions about a specific department or a specific line item. Again, that goes on for a number of pages here. There are some notes in there, and again, I know some of them make sense and some of them don't, depending upon how much content knowledge you may have about our budget, and I apologize for that. And then again, I'm on the page 41 here before that actually kind of shakes out, and we have Again, we have all of those numbers that were presented on an earlier slide. This is what our total budget is. Here's our grant offsets for salaries. Here's what we're backing out for state transportation. And this is where we landed. And then we actually go through, and I know we've done this for a number of years for Wilmington as well. We've broken out, and like I said, you will see some pretty big bumps in some of these things because, again, we have lead teachers that get a stipend, a percentage of their base pay for that. We have people that get a percentage of base pay for longevity pay. We have, and again, those had all kind of lived in isolation in the past, and we have brought all of those back into salaries for this current year.
So last year, we had a long discussion about the budget, and you mentioned transportation, you're adding it back in this year. So my issue last year wasn't with the removal of the transportation, it was that
The representation.
it wasn't done multiple, it was only done 1 year, and then it was kind of, the numbers didn't add the same way. So you had to remove from both years or keep it in for both years. But last year, we approved the budget that you requested, which was $39,959,681. So if you look at what you have right there on page 41, that second column is FY voted budget at the top of this operating budget detail thing. You have $40,055,831. That's not what we approved.
The state came back and gave some additional Chapter 70 funding, and I believe the town manager received a letter from us. Our school committee voted to add that to the approved budget and keep it for our use this year. And once that happened, I did send all the town managers a letter informing them. And then at that point, they had 45 days to either contest it, or after the 45 days, then it gets added to. It was, I forget what the exact dollar figure was, but that was an increase in Chapter 70 reimbursement. So our budget is based on the governor's numbers that come out in January. I think all of you know it goes through the legislature, the Senate has their version, the House has their version, then the three of them all horse trade and do all kinds of fun things and then come out with a final budget, usually sometime in August, early September, depending on the year. So sometimes those numbers do change. Same thing with transportation. These are projected regional transportation aid numbers. There are years that they go a little bit higher, there are years that they go lower. So we're just basing it on what was released in January.
Okay. So with your percentage changes this year, can you explain the 6.09% to me, please?
Yeah, so again, putting that approximately $1.5 million back in to our budget. So again, going back to last year's conversation, at least part of that should have been in last year's budget to make it a true reflection of the year over year before that. So again, that 6.9 is when we take out the grant salaries, when we take out the exact number from the cherry sheets, that's what we ended up with.
So that's comparing the 40 million to the 42.5 million. That's 6.09% increase.
Right.
Okay. And now the 1.71% increase that you're saying is what the actual increase is.
That was the 1.5. So the 6.9 is with that 1.5 added in. The 1.5 million for transportation that we didn't include last year. Okay.
No, it wouldn't be.
Yes. So if you go all the way back up, so the total is $44,338,798, which amounts to a 10.7% increase on its own over the FY26 number that was approved. If we back out the $520,000, which are the grant salaries, again, the IDEA, the Title I, the other things that we do, brings us down to $43,818,798. That represents a 9.39% increase. Now, if we back out the FY27 transportation reimbursement that we're anticipating, which is how we should have done it in '26, but didn't. It gets us down to the 6.09, which is the true increase from one to the other. But then so out of that 6.9, that approximately $1.5 million that we didn't assess last year is what that 4.38% was. That 4.38 is correcting the issue that you had brought, not an issue, but the talking point that you had brought up last year when we were here.
Right, okay. So what I'm seeing in this column here is that the 42,495 is subtracting out the transportation costs.
The FY27 reimbursement, yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So that means that at this point with that 42, your transportation costs are not in the 27 budget?
No, it is. So we put the full transportation cost is more like $1.8 million.
Right.
Somewhere in that. So we put the full transportation cost in for 27. We're backing out the anticipated state aid. That's that $1,323,000.
Which is what you did last year, isn't it?
No, that's not how we did it last year. So what happened last year was we only put $250,000 in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then down below said, well, we're gonna spend this number between transportation aid and revolving, so it was never included in the overall budget. We should have put it in the overall budget and then backed it out at the bottom like we're doing here. This is the return to the way that it has always been done in the past, except for last year. So it is a 6.09% increase over last year's budget. That is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you pull out the fact that there's just over $1.5 million that should have been added to that total last year and wasn't, that amounts to 4.38% of that increase.
I think what he's also saying is if he had put the 1.5 in last year, our percentage of last year's budget would have looked higher than it did.
Which is what we discussed last year.
Yes.
Yeah. And if it was higher, then it wouldn't be it wouldn't show as a 6 point this year.
Right, so what
would have happened is the FY26 budget would have been more like $41.5 million.
Yep.
And then obviously that significantly reduces the overall percentage increase before we start to back that stuff out. And again, based on the calculations that we were provided, that amounted to 4.38% of that change.
I guess what I'm having a hard time understanding is this minus the state transportation reimbursement offset.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're saying it wasn't included in the budget last year.
No, it was, but it was only $200,000.
Wait, sorry, it's 200,000, yeah.
Or 250, whatever
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
So that was included last year. And you're saying if you did include the state transportation, you would have had a $41.5 million budget.
Approximately, yeah.
And that's with the state transportation aid in.
Well, no, so we never backed it out. We deducted it from the total before we started last year. So again, we are trying to correct the issue, and I absolutely
Right,
agree
and
that-
what I'm trying to do is get an apples-to-apples comparison. That's what I'm trying to get to here.
And based on what I was based on what I was provided by our interim business manager, when he did those calculations, he said the apples to apples piece would be that 4.38% of that 6.09 increase is to make that adjustment in last year's transportation numbers.
So it sounds like you need the details behind where we get that 4.38%.
Which I can
So
add.
so you can reconcile your numbers to his.
Is that what?
Well,
I don't see how what did we appropriate last year? The difference between that and what we're appropriating this year, that's the increase.
Right.
Regardless of what happened, what should have been, what wasn't, that's the increase.
Right. So last year, we also didn't back those grant-funded salaries out the same way.
It doesn't matter, because if we sent you X number of dollars last year,
Yeah.
and we're gonna do the same thing this year,
Yeah.
we wanna know the difference.
Yeah.
So,
That was back on an earlier slide. It goes down about $500,000, the assessment.
For Wilmington,
For Wilmington.
right,
yes.
right.
but the
But for
overall
the
increase for the,
Percentage. So if you take what all the descending districts
Yep.
sent you last year,
Yep,
what they're all going to send this year.
Yep.
What's the difference? That's your increase.
6.09.
There's your increase.
yeah, the 1.71 is not a,
No, but I'm
it's
just.
not a real number. I don't know
No,
why it's being presented that way.
If
Yeah.
we, well, again, I won't argue one way or the other, but if you back out that $1.5 million that wasn't increased, that wasn't included last year, that's the 4.3, that's where the 4.3 came out. And maybe including that made it more confusing. That was not the goal, we were actually trying to be transparent and show how we got there. And if it ended up that way, then you have my apologies, because
I mean,
it's not the intent.
your summary here says the true year-over-year operating increase is 1.71%. That's not true.
If you back out that 4.38%, yes.
But that's not how you, that's not
Yeah.
how you address an increase or a decrease from year to year. We're going strictly with the dollars. Once you got the dollars, how you change those dollars on your ledgers is what you did on your ledgers. But Wilmington still sent X amount of dollars. We're going to send X amount of dollars. Those are the only two numbers in play. Nothing else matters. It's the difference between the two of them, which is the increase or a decrease.
Right.
So I understand that you're looking at it thinking, well, these changes affected, I don't know what they affected, but.
We were just trying to
You're
explain.
trying to explain something that has no bearing on this current year, because we know what we sent, we know what we're going to be sending. Those are the only two numbers we need.
Okay.
So,
My
does that
apologies
make
for the
sense to you?
confusion.
I agree with Scott. I mean, the 1.71% actual increase, that's a fictitious number. That's not what any sending district, your budget's not 1.71 increase. Just isn't.
The operating budget went up, yes.
You can, yeah, I mean, it's just, going forward, I would take that out. I mean, it's very misleading,
Okay.
very misleading.
Well, I think after this year, since we've gone back, it's not gonna be as convoluted as it is here today.
But I think we're also mixing apples and oranges. We're mixing a budget increase versus an assessment, the assessable amount. And that's those are two different numbers.
things, yep.
That's the issue. Very succinctly, that's the issue. Your budget, you have two different things. There's your budget, and then there's how much Wilmington.
What the
and
assessments are.
What the assessments are. Your budget is increasing a lot more than 1.71%.
Yes.
The amount you are assessing your member communities is increasing by a different percent, based on a whole bunch of different numbers.
Required minimum
Requirement
contributions,
minimum,
transportation
right.
reimbursement.
You're mixing apples and oranges, and that's what, I don't think it's, I'm gonna say it's confusing. And I think it's not a budget increase. Your budget, which is one of the inputs to the assessment process, your budget is going up some percent. I'm kind of lost by that, but that's because I haven't done my homework yet. So, so I think that's where this below the line, everything after
Right. After the 6.09%.
6.09, that's an assessment issue. Those are assessment issues. They don't belong on a budget conversation. And I think it is very hard for FinCom members and the public in particular to understand the difference between budgets and assessments. And when we mix the two numbers, we make that worse. So my suggestion is when you talk, be very clear about when you're talking about budgets and be very clear about when you're talking about assessments. Wilmington's assessment is going down.
Right.
It's going down because we have fewer students. And, but it could go down more if you had a lower budget.
Correct.
It could go down less if you had a higher budget. But it also has a number of other inputs to it, minimum contribution, et cetera. So I think Scott's trying to reconcile something, it's irreconcilable.
Right.
Because you're comparing apples and oranges by doing that, for that. So, that's my feedback, is that we should,
Yeah.
when we're
Again-
talking about the budget, talk about the budget. When you're talking about the assessment, talk about the assessment. But don't mix the two things, because it is
Very confusing.
it's very easy for anybody to draw, and I don't think you should be drawing conclusions between the budget and the assessment changes. I think it's irrelevant, and I think that because there's too many other factors involved.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please, Andy.
So can I just summarize for my own sanity, can I just summarize that the budget before offsets is up 10.7%, right? Then you've got the grant salary offsets of 520, you've got the state transportation reimbursement offset of 1.3, which gets the 2027 budget to 42.5, which is a 6.09%. Is that a good summary? So before offsets, budget was up 10%.
Yes.
Post offsets,
Right.
we're up 6.09%.
But also keep in mind that those two offsets that are there, the grant salary offset and the state transportation offset, were included in a different way in last year's budget.
Prior year, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yep, yep.
Which is why you're making sure that
We're
you're
trying to spell it out
You're
to be
trying to
clear.
get it to apples and apples, right? That's what that intent is. Okay,
Yep.
understood. Thank
Anthony?
you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Brad probably answered this. I was trying to reconcile this 44 million to the 35 million assessed value, which I think is the discrepancy, right? There's a $9 million difference there, what the towns are expected to pay in versus what's the actual operating budget, right?
So that would be the chapter 78 that was, and I can go back to the other slide.
You don't have to, no. I think a
And
summary.
then the anticipated transportation reimbursement
Understood.
should get you close to that.
Thank you. And then one comment, for me, I think, I don't know about the rest of the committee, a per student number going forward might be helpful. I did some quick math, and we have 7.3 million assessed to us. Wilmington this coming year, we had 7.8 last year. If you just simply divide by the number of enrolled students, 302 last year, 269 this year, it's 27K per student versus 26K and change. It's a 4.94% increase per student, which is the exact number that the public school budget increased by, which is just an interesting,
Coincidence.
yeah.
It's definitely a coincidence.
So
We had nothing
it's
to-
exactly 4.94% per student over here and 4.94% for the school district, the Wilmington School District, sorry. So just as it's in line, and then I think that clarifies for the 44 million, so thank you. Because I know you can't predict the variability, that's a very difficult thing to say.
Predict what?
The variability in
Yes.
enrollment, of
Yeah.
course, and then I think that
Yeah.
the lottery will throw another wrench into that. So I think breaking it down by student would be helpful for me to know, okay, 27K this year versus 26K last year per student. That would be very helpful.
Can I use that as a little bit of a segue? I know there was some conversations earlier about the lottery and the impact on numbers. I did just want to throw this out here. As of February 1st, we had 103 Wilmington eighth graders apply for application to Shawsheen next year, which works out to be about 38% of the eighth grade class. Maybe what?
But we can't accept them all.
We can't accept them, no. And again, that goes back to, yes, we are required by the state to implement a lottery. We did not change the community allocation percentages as part of that. We kept that as close to our normal process as we possibly could, which means that Wilmington will have 58 seats next year. That is a decrease of 3 seats, but only because we're bringing in 330 freshmen. The last 2 years, we brought in 350. We cannot sustain 350 over all 4 grade levels. The kids don't fit in our cafeteria, they don't fit in the auditorium, we don't have the number of academic classes that we need to support them. So yes, we did lower the number of students that we're going to accept this year, which did impact, so Wilmington will have 58 seats versus the 61 last year. But also as part of that, what happens is after a certain date, and that date's April 15th, which we picked because it's an easy date for all of us to remember because it's tax day. What ends up happening is those community allocations go out the window, and we take kids in a ranked order list regardless of what community they are. So in the past, I'm going to be honest, Bedford and Burlington were not filling their quotas. They were leaving open seats. We would hit that April 15th deadline, and we may grab some kids from Billerica, we may grab some kids from Wilmington, we may grab some kids from Tewksbury, depending upon where they were in that list. We will do the same thing, but I'm going to tell you that both Bedford and Burlington's applications to us have more than doubled in the last 2 years. So some of that flexibility and some of those extra seats that Wilmington, Tewksbury, and Billerica students used to be able to access is probably going to go away. And that would have happened regardless of whether we adopted this lottery or we didn't adopt this lottery. And that has been a lot of community outreach, a lot of parent focus groups, whatever you want to call it, to get information out there. And like I said earlier, it's not the choice for everybody, but we want families to make informed decisions. We've made a really focused effort the last 3 years to get out, to provide information, to meet with community groups, to host tours and other things like that. And it's, at least for us, it's paying off with a couple of our communities that were typically underrepresented in our enrollment in the past. But that is also going to impact some of our communities that used to pick up those extra seats. So we're at a little bit of a crossroads.
So you said you're going to select them in ranked order?
They'll be drawn by lottery.
Used to do
Okay.
it.
We used to do them by ranked order.
Okay.
Now it'll be by where they were drawn in the progression of the lottery.
Okay.
So, can I ask you?
Yes, please.
So do you do any tracking as far as number of applicants from each of the districts and the acceptance percentage? Like, does
We do.
Wilmington get like, hey, last year our acceptance rate was 56%, this year it's gonna be 40 because of all the reasons you just gave? Like, is that something that's communicated out?
We don't necessarily communicate, but it is tracked. So we have to file all that stuff with the Department of Ed every year, like how many applications for each community, how many were accepted. And we have to report on, were they EL students, were they low income, were they special ed?
Yeah.
There's some special categories that we have to report as part of that. We don't typically push that out as part of the budget process, but I mean, if that's something that people want information, I can get it and forward it to this group if you want to review it. I can show you the trend for Wilmington. So the class of 27, we had 76 applications. The class of 28, we had 108. The class of 29, we had 96. And the class of 2030, which will come in the fall, we had 103. So, there is a little variation there over just the last 4 years. Now, again, what ends up happening, sometimes with students are offered admissions and they decline. Superintendent Thompson was talking about, the parochial school, or maybe it was his finance person was talking about parochial schools, private schools. So sometimes what we find is students will apply to 3 or 4 different places. And then, based on where they get accepted, then they'll make their final decision. So I use the term churn. There is some churn. So even though we accept those 58 kids from Wilmington, 8 or 10 of them may say, you know what, I changed my mind, I got an offer to go to, Central Catholic, or I can go here, I can go there, and then we go to the next kids on the list, and the next kids on the list, so.
Okay.
That does happen on a regular basis for us.
All right, thank you.
I don't think we need that. It was curious, it's curious to me because the community's probably gonna
see a lot more kids now
Mhm.
from Wilmington that are not going to get accepted, and I'm anticipating a lot of social media
Yeah.
on that subject. Right? I
You
know the
described our
smile,
experience
the
in
smile is coming
Burlington
from
and
you guys,
Bedford.
yeah.
Yes.
You're preaching to the converted, right? Like that's, of course, that's coming, right?
Yeah.
Could you please speak to the Finance Committee about the issues that you were having in your front office this year?
I'll be glad to speak in kind of a broad and general sense. I'm obviously going to be very, very selective with what's shared. So we came to the end of last school year. We got our FY24 audit that had some findings on it. If anybody wants to read it, it is posted on our website under the school committee section. There were some recommendations that came out of that. When we finally got through the E&D process and got that certified, there were a lot of questions around that, which prompted us to bring in an interim person to really kind of take a hard look. We have identified and made a number of changes, including we've hired it's a part-time position. We've hired a district treasurer to help with cash reconciliation and reconciling all of our books. That person also reviews and signs off on all of the warrants and purchases now, and payroll and all of those things. And like I said, in addition, we've had this interim person since late July, early August, and they've been reviewing all of our systems and procedures, and they've been updating stuff as they go. And again, they're helping to train our business office staff and make sure that we're up to date and we're following all of, the accepted standard practices, and we are currently in the process of updating that office. We did post for a new business manager. I believe it was either Thursday or Friday, and we have a target of July 1st to have somebody permanently on board to help us move forward in the future years.
Did that person voluntarily leave, or were they asked to leave?
I'm not sure that's
Yeah,
something.
I'm not going to
sure
comment,
that's
I'm not going to
something
comment
Okay.
on that.
We should be talking about people.
All right. So you said that you had audits,
Yep, we have to do an audit every year, yep.
right? So that audit exposed these different things that,
It pointed towards some things that we had questions about.
okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
One follow-up question. So that was FY '24 audit? Do you have the FY '25 audit?
It is not done yet. It is in process, and
It's
they are
in
working on it,
process.
but yes, no, we haven't received it yet.
Which is why you can't certify your E&D.
Right. Well, depends on who you ask, because the auditor says they can't certify because they don't have E&D, and E&D says they can't finalize but yes, it's one of these, yes.
You got us some revolving account balances.
Yep.
I just wanted to, I had a question about the compensated absences, just what that account is. I assume I know what it is, but I just wanted to be sure.
So that would be, so when teachers retire, there is a sick leave buyback, and there are other things that they are eligible for at the end of their careers. So that is I don't want to use the word trust, but that is a specific fund that is used to pay for that. We haven't tapped into that in the past couple of years that I'm aware of, and I think a lot of that was planning under previous administrations, and they had kind of put that aside. I will be honest, we are getting into that phase where we will see a lot of retirements. So we may end up, that balance may go down in the next 3 to 5 years, because we have a lot of staff members that, have been there 20, 25 plus years, who are all kind of coming into that window to retire. And I think we posted 9 or 10 replacements for next school year already.
Okay.
So we're going to see some more transition there.
Yeah. I mean, the balance for that account went down $827 or $828,000, which is 18% from last year to this year. So that did go down.
That last year.
Yep. And the health insurance trust, that one,
I don't think that's gone up much.
that dropped by 20%.
Okay. So
So,
again, health insurance, we use that to offset those we are self-insured.
yep,
So we do our best. We have a consulting group that we work with to make projections about that, but sometimes, you know, again, all it takes is a handful of people to get really sick, and
Yeah.
those projections don't always come true.
okay, all right. Just, yeah, it's a big drop, so just something to keep an eye on, I guess. Back to the budget. Last year, you mentioned, you talked about hoping to implement a master schedule to update, you know, to balance staffing needs.
Yep.
Has that been implemented?
No, and with the change, with the vote to remove MCAS as a graduation requirement, what we did is we are anxiously awaiting the state's guidance on what those new graduation requirements are gonna be. So what we didn't wanna do was in FY '27, make a major schedule change for us, and then find out from the state that, oh, guess what? Here's 2 more things that you should have built into that schedule, or here's 3 things we're now gonna require that we never did before. The school committee had voted to put that off a year, so we are now targeting September of 2028, I'm sorry, I'm mixing
Yeah.
my school years here, I'm trying to do it in
Right.
my head. But yes, it is on track, we still do have plans to do that, but we didn't think it was prudent to make a major change without having that guidance come out from the Department of Ed.
Okay, thank you. We had talked about para contracts last year, and how we had a large growth in salaries for a few years. At the meeting, you told us it was due to collective bargaining. They basically had formed union or whatever.
Yeah, they
And
hadn't
that
been
was-
organized before, yeah.
Yes. So I think it was, I was the one who asked if 2026 was the last year that we would see a big salary increase at such a high rate, and you said, yes, that was the last year of catching up on those. I think you talked about how you'd stage them, kind of, so they wouldn't all hit in one year. So with the paras this year, you talked about, you know, shifting them. You'd done some shifting last year, you did more shifting this year. So it looks like, by my count, there are now 18 paras that you have. So you went from 11, or where they're listed in your budget. You went from 11 last year, now there's 18 there. The costs jumped 132% from 397,000 to 925,000, so 132, 133%. But your staffing needs increased by 64%.
Right. So that grant and salary offset that we included this year wasn't done consistently in that budget, which again, we didn't realize till we did it this year. So in some of those, so instead of us, again, charging that full cost for those paras, what was happening was that IDEA grant was being deducted from the total budget before it was finalized, which again, is something we shouldn't have been doing, and we've corrected that. And I know there's a big bounce in those salaries. And like I said, we found, especially on the vocational side, I was under the impression or the understanding that they had all been moved into the special ed department, and as we went through this year, we're really more systematically went through those things. We found out that there were, I think there was four or five, maybe even 6, that had been left in a vocational department and not brought into special ed.
Yeah. So as, I'm not sure if you were in the room when we had the discussion with the Wilmington School Department about their grants, but if you can kind of show those numbers, that would be helpful.
So where that 520 comes from?
Yeah, like, you know, these positions are grant funded and here's where it comes from. That would be helpful to see as we're going through the budget, so we know. That's why that increase is there, you know, that would show, I would know then, okay, this is why this showed up.
We actually did have that in our draft, and I know for whatever reason, we ended up taking it out before we finalized what we shared.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have that breakdown as to what salaries it offset and how much, and
Okay. I did want to mention that the operating budget detail, I do like this.
You like that
This
format?
gives detail so I can kind of tie into numbers, which is what I'm trying to do in a lot of this. But with that, I want to go through because there are things that aren't tying in on this. So I wanted to kind of go through that along with the projected staff salaries. Where it's, the salaries, you don't have to pull it up on the screen, but on page 45, under dental, you have 3 salaries there, but you have 5 FTEs list. It says 5 FTEs, I assume that's just, it should be 3.
Yeah, that's an error.
That's,
Yep,
yeah,
thank you.
okay. On page 45, we'll stay on page 45 there. Under data processing.
Yep.
So what I was doing, I was comparing these to the numbers in this.
Yep.
And on your operating budget detail on page 38, because most departments' salaries tie out.
Yeah.
Not all.
Yeah. I'm smiling because I asked the same question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Geez, you two should have lunch.
So on page 38, you'll see the salaries are wrong. So the first number on your salaries, the 100,560, and the last number, the 130,299, should
Which
go
page
to
you on?
internet, which is on page 47.
Page 47, yep. Okay.
Because on page 47, I'm sorry, yes, they should go there, because internet is your ISSN, which is on page 28. If you move those salaries, then those tie out.
Okay.
Almost,
Okay.
almost, and we'll get to there, because there's a third one.
So I had asked that question, and so we actually built a salary database this year, which we had never had in the past. And I questioned that same thing.
Yep.
And what I was told was there are some salaries that are pulled from different places in the database, and it doesn't crosswalk exactly with the way that it's broken out here.
Okay.
But again, that was something that we didn't find, as I was going through these things until like at the end. So
Yep.
that is something that we already know we have to fix moving forward.
Okay. Okay. On page 46 of your projected staff salaries, there's a para listed under graphic arts.
Yep.
On page, let's see, on page 28, under graphic arts, they are not listed in that salary section, so I assume they have to move to para.
That was another one that needs to be, again, based on, I was told it is pulled correctly in the database, but it wasn't, it didn't
Okay.
crosswalk correctly to the operating
Yep.
budget.
Same thing on page 42. You have 2 paras under admin that do not tie into your operating budget detail, so I assume those as well need to be moved to para.
Sorry, I'm trying to locate them, my apologies.
Yep. Let's see. One's about halfway down the page. So the second one down, and then about halfway down.
Yes, again, and I questioned both of those as well, and I was told that in the database they're pulled, they should be budgeted differently than what is reported in that.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
On page 47, your guidance dean of students has a salary listed there, but on page 32, in your operating budget detail, the director salary is listed. So basically what you have is, in one, you have the dean of students in guidance, and in guidance you have the director of,
So we have director of guidance and.
guidance director has to be swapped with the dean of students between admin and guidance.
Okay, so I'm on page 47, I see the
Yep.
dean of students, where was you're talking a little fast, I can't flip.
You're right,
that quickly.
there's a lot. There's a lot here, and it's
Okay.
unfortunate that there is, because I had to go through and find all this. The dean of students, under guidance.
Yep.
That salary is listed under admin in your operating budget details.
Yeah, again, that's one that's pulled differently in the database than it is listed
Right.
in the. So again, the salaries came directly from the database, but the crosswalk between the database and the operating budget.
Right.
This is the first year we did it. and we understand there's some corrections and some changes
Yeah.
that need to be made, yes.
So then the
Yep.
opposite is true, because in your operating budget details, you have, is it Dean of Students listed, and that is supposed to be in guidance according to your sheets.
Right, again, it's pulled one way in the database and listed another
Yep.
way in the operating budget. Yep,
Your food services director is listed in your projected staff salaries under cafeteria. In your operating budget detail is listed under admin, same thing. Under special education, which is on page 51 of your projected staff salaries.
Yep.
50 and 51. The totals, I actually had to, I totaled up the numbers because it wasn't tying out for me, and your total is off by $20.
okay.
Should be $3,659,881. You have $901 on that. But what's more concerning is that if you total up all of the special education teachers with the BCBA number in here, I get a total of $2,491,932. So if you go to your operating budget on page 33, you'll see your professional salaries, which is what is included in there. That one is, it's off, but it's only off $12, so at least it's close.
Okay.
And that could be a rounding. That very easily could be with that number of positions. But I added up the para salaries, and I got $808,287. But as we talked about, there's a graphics para and 2 from admin that need to get moved in.
Yep.
When you move those in, we end up with a number of $971,508.
Okay.
Your total para salaries that are in your operating budget detail, which is what you're requesting, is $925. So we're coming up $46,000 short on our request there from what you have listed as salaries.
So again, I sat down with the person that had developed the database, and we walked through all of those. And she has assured me that they're reflected correctly. It's just,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't hit the microphone. It's reflected correctly, it's just not, it wasn't carried over correctly from one document to the other.
Okay, so the concern with that, though, is that this is the number you're asking for.
Yeah, and we will make that
And
number
the salaries
work.
number is higher than that.
Yep.
So now we'll go to the complicated one, which is administration.
Okay.
So from last year's budget to this year's, you condensed 5 departments into administration with the way you're presenting the budget. There was business office, communications and outreach, dean's office, school office, and superintendent's office. I'm fine with you condensing them in there. That makes sense to put them all in admin to me, but it made it very difficult to track down all these numbers.
And we have an interim who was not familiar with how this was developed in the past. And I think some of that is the fact that this is their spin and their interpretation on. So again, it was not done intentionally. We're not trying to make it more difficult, but this has been a different year for us too.
Yep, I understand that. So on the top of page 43, your projected staff salaries, it has what you're projecting your admin salaries to be, but we've already kind of moved some of these around. So we subtracted out 2 paras for about $109 million. We moved the guidance director and the dean of students, we swapped them to get the net decrease of around 11,000. We added in the food and nutrition director, which is 98,000. That gives us a total salary request for admin, if we make all those changes, of $2,750,861. Now, the problem is that there are 2 salaries in your operating budget detail in the admin section, the assistant dean and your student resource officer, which are not listed as projected staff salaries.
We don't have an assistant dean and never have.
Okay,
So that, I don't know why that was,
you're requesting $49,930 for that position in your budget.
so my guess is that, again, one of those para salaries was probably put in that category. And again, we have multiple people working on this that aren't as familiar with how this has been built over time. And I'm gonna be honest, that was not, I was not in the weeds, if you will, on how that was created. I can go back and look, but I mean, looking at how much that salary, that falls right in the range of what we would pay a paraprofessional. So my guess is that that's where one of those para salaries got inserted, was there, which it shouldn't have, but that's what it looks like.
Okay. In the student resource officer?
They're not a staff member, so we pay Bill Ricca PD bills us
Okay,
twice a year for the salary of the SRO.
okay, all right. How do you pay your cafeteria staff? Because I don't see that in the operating budget details, so I was
They're
curious.
paid out of a revolving account.
All right, that's what I assumed on that. Thank you. So the reason why I'm kind of going through all this is because your projected staff salaries that are in this document totals $24,993,065. But your operating budget detail, which is what the budget is based off of, is requesting for salaries $24,653,901. Now, we just said cafeteria staff needs to be backed out, but we're still coming up with a shortfall.
Right.
So one of those positions, under data processing or computer services, you have two different names for it in the different reports, which drove me
Which
crazy.
I understand.
You have an unfunded administration position. So it's in projected salaries, it's not in this operating budget detail.
Where is that? Because I'm not aware of that one.
That is on page 45, I believe.
Yeah.
Second one down from the top. That's not in your budget anywhere, anywhere that I can find.
Again, I'd have to go through that. I mean, this is not something I'm gonna find.
Right.
In this book, but I can go back and look at that. Again, it's my understanding that all of those should have been pulled out of that database correctly. To go back to the difference, you have to remember that these professional salaries now include stipends for department chairs, lead teachers, our EL coordinator, our
Right,
MCAS
but
coordinator.
that's all in the
longevity
salaries
plan.
number in this. I can tie into most departments.
So you're saying that the budget detail number is higher or lower than the salary request?
The salary numbers that are in your operating budget detail
Yeah,
are lower than what your projected salaries are on your projected salaries document.
again, I've asked that question numerous times, and I've had it explained to me that is the difference between the database numbers. I am just basing this on the information that I was provided.
It's very confusing to me that you would put out a budget, though, a budget detail, and not check to make sure the salaries were tying into it. That seems like a very rudimentary check for me.
So when I went through this, I did do that. And I don't understand, and again, maybe there was some confusion in the document creation, but I did sit down and go through this and double check those numbers before this even came to the committee. So yes, that was done. I think,
Okay?
yeah.
So total salaries for the last 3 years. So by, trying to go through your budgets and figure them out, FY '25, 21 million, 21.7 million, FY '26, a 23.2 million, which was a 6.9% increase. In FY '25, a 25 million, which is another 7.5% increase.
That was 27 was?
Yeah, 27 was, yeah, just under 25 million. I mean, those are substantial jumps.
So 26 was the first year of a new collective bargaining agreement?
In 27?
No, FY '26.
Yeah, and what about 27? Another 7.5%?
Again, those numbers never reflected longevity pay. They never reflect, so our department chairs get a 10% differential to be department chairs. That money was never pulled out and accounted for by individuals. It was somewhere, again, it was somewhere in there as a lump sum. So yes, the salaries look like they're going up, but we're also reporting this stuff out in different ways to make sure that it is more factual and accurate as we go forward. So as we uncover things that, again, to me, don't make sense or aren't reported in what I would think would be a clear and forthright manner, we're making those changes.
So, can I just interrupt for a second? So what I hear you saying is that, for example, you, in FY '26 budget, you had longevity in a bucket. You know, everybody's longevity payment was in a line item called longevity, which may not have been reported under salaries.
Right.
And
may not
this
have been
year,
labeled
you
longevity.
moved it into salaries,
Yes.
which may account for the percentage increases.
Yeah.
So part of this, I'm not saying this is true, I'm saying what I heard. Part of this, that percentage is due to moving and frankly, in my opinion, I tend to agree with your interim business manager. It's better to have the
Associated with the individual.
associated with the
Yes,
individual.
yes.
Because
Yeah.
so some of those numbers are actually coming out pretty intense.
All right, and to just say, and I understand what you're saying, because we, from our side, is the same way. It was like, all right, so this is the teacher's salary, oh, but then he's getting this on top of it for longevity, then he's getting a stipend for this. And we wanted to say, well, how much is this person actually making?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Altogether.
Which
Yep.
is what
So that's what we're
to
trying to
Okay.
do, under just looking under one, instead of saying, okay, he's under this for a salary, now he's over here in this sheet for a stipend.
Yeah.
So instead of taking the step and column from, from a pay chart or a contract, we've actually said, we have some individuals that are department chairs and get a stipend for running, summer programming and get, so some of them, it's a substantial increase in their
Yeah.
salary.
Okay.
Which again, wasn't always documented that way in the past, so yes.
Yeah.
It's not a substantial increase in their compensation, it's a substantial increase in the line item.
In the budget, in the
Right.
budgeted line item.
So their compensation hasn't gone up.
No,
Because they
I'm
were
sorry.
always getting.
They were
I just
always
wanna be-
getting
I
that
wanna-
payment,
I want to be
yes.
careful, that's,
Yes.
you're not, in the way you're accounting. Right.
And I appreciate that, and I thank you for that, because it's clearer that way, showing it that way, and what I'm looking for is consistency across how you're budgeting. And we didn't see it last year, I don't think we're seeing it again this year. And we can't keep doing this. It's every year, Shawsheen Tech comes in, and it's a fight to go through their budget, because nothing's been consistent, it changes year to year. That was my issue last year, that's my issue again this year, and then, I'm happy to hear you say that, you found some of these discrepancies in here, but then they gotta be fixed. Like, we had this draft budget, we had a draft budget from you a few weeks ago, and I was going through then finding some of these.
Yeah.
So why weren't they fixed by the time we get the final budget? That can't happen, in my opinion. Like, we're a review board.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be getting budgets that are having that kind of error, those kind of errors in them.
Okay.
So, I wanted to kind of jump up about 7 levels of detail to a little bigger picture. So I have a couple of questions. So you are in the second year, so FY 27 is the second year of a 3-year collective bargaining agreement
Yes.
with your teachers.
Yeah,
So
all-
what are,
all bargaining, all 5 of
so
them.
what are the COLAs of the teachers' contract?
26, I think, was 375, 27, I believe, is 375, and 28 is 35.
Okay. Now, you also said you added what I heard to be a new lane, or a new,
It's a bump out.
tell me what you mean by a bump out.
So, and again, I don't remember if it was 8 or 9 columns that we had. What we did is, instead of adding a whole nother column, we made, there's 4 extra steps on the bottom. So a staff member that's been there more than 10 years, has more than 120 salary credits, and there's another criteria, I forget what it is. There's 3 criteria. If they've met all 3 of those criteria, and they're all the way, they would have been all the way at the bottom of that original pay
Bottom right,
scale.
yep.
They have the option to move over and get a bump
Okay.
on that little, so it wasn't a full column addition, it was just the top 4 steps that we did.
Right,
That's
so,
why I call it a bump
but
out.
that's somewhat just in appearances only, because people at are not in Master's 60, step 1, you don't,
Right.
those people
Right, no,
don't
they're
exist.
way at
So-
the top of the chart.
So they're way at the bottom in terms of longevity.
what we-
So,
when
what
we-
was the bump out in terms of a percent?
I'd have to go back and look,
Okay.
I don't remember.
So,
I want to say it's a couple $1,000s, it wasn't a huge.
So, I want to, first of all, I want to say that, I want to state for the record that I was the superintendent at Shawsheen Tech through through 2022.
Yeah.
And Tony succeeded me. And I own some of this, so I want to be clear about that. But I also want to state for the record that I do receive my retirement health insurance through Shawsheen Tech. I try to remind everybody of that every year, because I retired from Shawsheen Tech. But these salaries are unsustainable. I cannot, if the Wilmington School Committee walked in this room and said they gave COLAs of 3.75%, 3.75%, and 3.5%, they would be voted out of office. And I know that because in 1985, I was voted into office because the Wilmington School Committee gave a huge increases. That was the 777 year we had contract. So that, given the height of the salaries, these salaries are unsustainable. They are completely unsustainable, and they are far above what any of your sending districts are paying teachers. Now, I know that the challenge of having a collective bargaining agreement where you have vocational teachers and academic teachers is a challenge. And, you know, I'm sure that the STA would fight tooth and nail at the attempt to separate those into 2 separate bargaining units. But the market for an academic teacher does not require you to pay $130,000 for a bottom right hand for a top
Top step and column.
top step. And I just saw a member of the school committee in the background, head just went up saying $130,000. They'd give anything to be able to pay some of their academic teachers $130,000. You got to figure out a way to get this under control. And I'm looking to my school committee rep for that, particularly because that is through the collective bargaining process. When you say you sign a collective bargaining agreement and you didn't know how much your teachers made fully in compensation, that's information you got to know, because that's how they're bargaining. They're bargaining for their total compensation. These numbers are out of control and
So
unsustainable,
when we
completely
settled
unsustainable.
that was in line with both Burlington and Bedford, who are 2 of our sending communities, and was significantly below what Minuteman and Greater Lowell had settled for with their, so, and again, I'm not trying to make excuses,
No.
but that was also a year and a half ago when we were right in the middle of teacher strikes and the MTA was mobilizing, so there was a lot of things at play when that contract was negotiated.
And I get that, and I understand that I understand that Shawsheen Tech teachers, I've worked with them, they are fabulous, and I actually thought the STA is a very reasonable unit to work with. But those numbers cannot be sustained, and you gotta pull that back. When you're negotiating your next contract, it's impossible. We cannot do this. You're continuing the tax increases that your member communities are getting, not just because of the assessment from Shawsheen Tech, but because special ed costs at Wilmington Public Schools are skyrocketing well above our ability to raise taxes for them, so that takes money away from other places. This has just got to get fixed. So the other question, the question I want to ask, end of lecture. This presentation, which was a preliminary one that I got, because I didn't have time to print out the one you sent over recently. There's a lot of detail in here, and then there's a lot of very high level, but there's no like budget summary. So a question as simple as, how many new positions are in this budget? Is not in this presentation.
They're not new, but we did absorb 2 that had previously been funded under a grant,
So there's no new positions?
No.
Other than positions that were grant funded?
Yeah, we had a grant from, I think it was the Department of Public Health for the last 2 years, and we want to keep that program, so now we have to absorb those salaries.
Okay, thank you. So just that level of, I mean, there was a detail, the Wilmington presentation had like, you know, our utilities are going up 20%, our health insurance is going up 10%. You mentioned some of those drivers, but that level of detail would be helpful, I think, to just, to basically say, you know, we've got COLAs, we've got that level of detail. I think that interim level of detail would be helpful for communities, finance committees to understand what's driving your costs. It's really critical for you to continue to remind people that you have to pay your health, you know, you pay your employees' health insurance.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, you are an independent organization who gets no funding, you know, who doesn't have a municipal side.
Right.
You got to pay to have your school
Parking lot
plowed.
Yes, which has been expensive this year.
Yes, I bet it has. So I just think those types of things, those types of reminders, it's, you know, part of these conversations are difficult because FinComs are, you know, look at fire budgets, they look at police budgets, they look at school budgets, and their budgets are budgets. And then you're such a unique entity that some finance committee members, and definitely the public, don't understand the different dynamic that goes into budgeting your organization, which is independent from the Wilmington Public Schools. So, and that comes into things like mixing assessments and budgets, that those things are really hard to comprehend. So, having said that, the detail, I think the detail is good, and if it gives our resident detail guru the opportunity to run in and do that. I also think we may see, if you do, you know, now you're gonna have, this will be your 4th business manager, the one you hired that
No,
starts.
it'd be second business manager.
Well, you had your existing, you had the one that was there when I was there.
There's no overlap.
There was no,
That individual was gone before I started.
right.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying it's
I'm
what's
saying
happened,
since,
gotcha. Sorry.
in the past 5 years,
Yeah.
you will have had 4 business managers.
Yeah.
That is contributing to a lot of this. And, you know, I urge, again, the school committee and you, who does the hiring, to look long-term, find someone who can stabilize that office, find somebody who can put a budget process together that doesn't change to the whims or the preferences of the incumbent, and something that you find understandable so you can defend it.
Yep.
You're in a tough position, you know, you're not, this isn't a budget,
No, I'm relying on an interim who, you know,
Right.
again, is provided through a consulting service.
that hiring process is critical.
Yeah.
Critical. And good luck with it. Thank you.
How many FTEs do you have this year?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can find out and send
Great,
it back to you.
thank you. Yeah, if you can get with the committee.
You want you want a comparison 26? Well, actually, it's not gonna change, so 26, 27 be the same number. Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Anybody said everything? Okay.
Geez, you didn't expect this drilling for you, the fact that our assessment's going down.
It's all right.
700,000.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in today, and I want to thank you for providing us with the budget
Oh, did
the day after you had it presented.
Yeah, I think it went out Wednesday morning, I believe.
Yeah, so that was greatly appreciated, to give us a little bit of time to absorb it. It's a lot, so just a reminder, most folks on this committee work full-time. They have family obligations, so the more time they have to review a budget, especially one as involved as this,
Can I
the
ask a
better.
question? Because in past years, you've had it a little further beyond today. Are you going to try and have them at the end of February every year? So
Yes, this will
so
be a
You may
good,
try to move our stuff sooner, because we were going off of last year, so we did it in March, so we'll try to get our
Yeah.
committees to get stuff done a little sooner
Right.
if possible.
That's-
We'll get
Yeah.
things-
Yeah.
we appreciate it, makes a big difference.
It's hard for us because we don't get the state numbers till the end of January, so
Yeah.
it takes a little while to turn that
But
stuff around.
that's just the,
Yeah.
but that's just the assessment calculation.
It is, yeah. I
Your
mean, we
budget-
would have the budget.
Your
we did have
budget's
the budget.
independent of that.
Yeah, we just
Yep.
didn't realize we were
That's
going to
just
get
one,
called so
that's just
early.
one number you gotta plug into the spreadsheet.
Unless you do, I'm not going to say.
I'll ask a question. So your warrant article for the town meetings.
Oh, yes, we've talked about that.
Do you have a timeline that you're looking for that? For like the feasibility study is gonna go for a couple of years. So what does the timeline look like for that?
We have to have financing approved, finalized, whatever term you want to use, for MSBA before, I believe it's May 28th. It may be the 27th, it may be the 29th, but it's essentially the end of May. We have to have the financing for the feasibility study allocated for them to move us forward to the next stage.
Okay. You talked about how you wanted to use E&D funding, but you have to wait for that to get certified.
Yep.
If a community does not pass it, do all 5 need to pass it?
Yes, because it's separate warrant articles in all 5 communities.
So if a community does not pass it, can you use E&D funding to then fund their portion?
I don't believe so. I think it's an all or nothing. Either we use E&D to offset everybody's costs equally.
All right,
Or
that
we
was
don't.
what I was wondering, yeah,
Yeah.
I was confused about if that was allowed or not.
And those numbers were calculated basically by student. So we took the number of students enrolled by community. I forget the exact, it was under $1,200, but it was over $1,100.
Right.
And then we basically multiplied that and said, this is how we came up with our ask by student.
Okay.
That's part of the regional agreement.
Yes. Yep.
So I know Burlington didn't vote for a new high school. They weren't an MSBA,
Yep.
but they didn't pass it. Tewksbury Town Manager has indicated he's gonna recommend to his boards that they do not pass this. So I know the school is getting old and you need a lot of work. Do you have a contingency plan yet if this doesn't pass? Or what will the step be if this doesn't pass? One community, because you said one community can sink it.
Yeah, one community is gonna sink this.
But that's only if you don't use E&D.
If we don't use E&D. Now, if our E&D gets certified and there's enough money in there to fund this, then what we would do is we would withdraw the warrant articles.
Okay.
What's the total cost of the feasibility study?
It's just under 1.5, it's like 1,498,000, so it's just under $1.5 million.
Thank you.
Actually, I can give you the exact number if you'd like, Mr. Jackson.
No, I apologize for interrupting. but-
In last year's E&D was 800,000, just over 800,000 certified.
This was what was certified, yeah. And again, that was, we had anticipated more like 1.5, 1.6.
Right.
Total cost, $1,498,587 is what we're requesting. And again, if we get our E&D certified, the one fly in the ointment, if you will, is Bedford's town meeting is the last Monday in March. So we are very quickly coming up. They are almost 2 months ahead of some of our other communities. So what may end up happening here is when we get E&D certified, we may, just politely inform them, if we get the money,
Yeah.
thank you, but no thanks, and then they can reallocate. Now, their share is obviously considerably less than most of our other communities because we have very few students from Bedford.
The agreement that you have with the sending communities, when it comes to capital costs like a school project,
Yeah.
I know I read it at one point, because I think it's only like one page. It's not very long, I think, or at least the one that I read was.
The whole regional agreement, I don't think is more than 10 or 12 pages.
Okay, yeah.
And it should be on your website.
It is.
How does the funding for a project like that work? Because I want to say that it was 50% was divided, like each community owed 10%, and then it was based on enrollment for the last 50%. Is that correct?
Yeah. It should follow the same way that we calculate capital costs in our operating budget according to the regional agreement, yeah.
And is that just a one-year student enrollment number, or is that like taken over a certain number of years? The reason why I'm asking is we're seeing Wilmington's enrollment going down.
Yep.
And this project on the horizon, so
So for the feasibility study or for the project funding?
the project, it's the
Okay.
project funding.
So project funding, and again, this is my understanding, is what would happen is it's a district-wide one-day vote, and it's a debt exclusion and a project approval at the same time. And as long as a majority of the voters approve it, then all the communities kind of own it. But what would happen is every year, like, let's say that the bond payment is $5 million a year, we would have to look at the student enrollment. So if for some reason Wilmington's enrollment doubles, then that assessment would go up. If Wilmington's enrollment decreases, then that assessment would go up. But it's basically, it's spread out, and each year there would be a different.
So the life of the bond payment, and every year
each
you're
would be
sending,
different.
okay.
It's not like in
Which is
year
why-
one of the bond, you own it, and then you're stuck with it, and 30 years into it, you only got 5 kids going, but you're paying for,
Right.
300. That's not how it works.
Which is why the bond for the field is included every year in their
In
capital.
capital.
So it
Yeah,
goes,
makes
so it
sense,
goes
okay.
into that.
Yeah.
So it's recalculated every year.
Do you know what you got for a bond rate? Because that came up recently with Wilmington with bond rates.
The last time I looked, I think it was A+, but I haven't been on lately to see.
Okay.
I don't know if that's changed or not.
All right. Thank you.
On this subject, I know people are trying to go home, but that's a very difficult decision about trying to decide when to go to the public for approval. I perceive that you feel it's risky, you'd rather use E&D money to fund this. And I urge everyone to consider how risky that is versus knowing up front you're going to have a challenge. Now, if you talk about getting the final project approved through a region-wide vote, so what happens is on the same day, all 5 towns have to go to a special election on the same day, and it's called, frankly, by the regional school committee, not even up to the town clerks. And it's a vote to do a debt exclusion with this bypasses the select boards of all 5 communities, and it goes directly to the voter. And you need a majority of the 5 communities, not of each community,
but of total. So if,
Majority of total voter turnout.
right, of total voter turnout, so if 5,000 people vote, and 4,000 of them are from Billerica, and they don't want to pay it, then, so it's total vote. It's a very different dynamic. Now, it doesn't have to go that way. That's the choice of, you can choose to go to individual districts as well. That, what you talked about is one of the options. The other option is to take it to the individual towns, and it has to pass 4 out of 5. I don't know if that's in the regional agreement.
It's gotta be 2/3, which amounts to 4 out of 5
Yeah,
towns.
I think you need a 2/3 vote to do that. So I think at some point in time, this is
a few
you
years
have to,
down the road.
you have to look at this, not only, this is gonna be a big number. And it's a needed number, but the way you approach the voter and the taxpayer is really critical here. And taking their voice away, at some level, I see using E&D funds to pay for the feasibility study as taking a voice away from the voter and the taxpayer and the communities, frankly. And if I were sitting in that seat, I'd be thinking differently. I guarantee you, because the easier way is to pay for it with E&D and roll the dice later.
Yeah.
But from this seat, I think that communities have to have as much voice as possible in what could be, multi-hundreds of millions of dollars of debt that they are assuming. And the 30 years or so that they're gonna have to pay for it. So
We've tried to build the building committee to encompass input from all of our sending communities and make sure that we had representation. We've been working with the town managers on that, but yeah,
But that's not a building committee decision. That's
No.
a school committee decision. And, so a lot of this stuff.
But again, just trying to get the word out, not that we intended to do this, but this is also a good opportunity because as we're having conversations with finance committees and select boards and town managers about the feasibility study, it's really opening that dialogue about, well, what does that lead to? When are you gonna,
Which is
you're
important.
You're looking at 2 to 2.5 years potentially to come back for a project vote. And again, the more information that we share, the more that we educate people about that, I think it's in everybody's best interest as we move forward with this.
Thank you. And I'm the chairman of the building committee that we just recently formed. And my thought is to make sure all towns know up front what's going on, no matter which way we decide to pull the vote, whether it's a debt exclusion or individually. But I, as the chairman, I want to make sure everybody gets their information as best that they can, and, as much as they can, as we get it. And so. There's a difference between knowing what's going on and having a say in what's going on. Right. And I'm urging you to make sure local communities have a say in what is going on.
No, I understand
As
that.
opposed to know what's going on. Those are two very different.
No, I understand. That's why, as you mentioned, we have people from each town on the building committee, and hopefully they, along with us, will be going back, and they'll be going back to their own communities as we have our meetings, explaining it to their town managers, to their selectmen, as much as we also, so they can get it out there.
Any other comments from the Finance Committee? You done, gentlemen?
I'm all done.
Sorry.
No, good input. All right, well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a lovely weekend.
What's left of it?
Yeah,
Do we have any other business?
yeah. I just want to,
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Thanks, guys.
For the rest of your day as well.
Thank you, guys.
remind everybody, Thursday night is our joint public hearing of the Planning Board and the Finance Committee. As soon as I get the warrant, I will send it out, Tommy will send it out to us. Tommy, if you could put that on your list for Monday to badger whoever it may be, probably Eric. so that we can start looking at what we're dealing with on Thursday. The 7th, the 5th.
7 PM, yeah.
Yeah. And then the following Saturday, we will meet at 9 AM in this room, and we'll do our recommendations. We'll vote on our recommendations. Hopefully, that will be a somewhat shorter meeting. We don't have a big warrant this year, and I don't think there's a whole lot that will create a lot of discussion, but you never know.
No, got this warrant from
And then we'll be done.
Shawsheen. So Thursday night, 7 PM next door, right?
Yes.
Thursday night, what, March what?
This coming
This
Thursday
This
night.
coming Thursday,
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
Thursday, this Thursday, 7.
Yeah, and Saturday.
Today, Saturday, 9 AM
Yeah.
here again.
Yeah, and then we're all done.
Done.
Okay? So if there's nothing else before the committee, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor? Thank you very much. And I also wanted to just mention Tommy Donahue for being here for us.
Tommy, you're
through
doing great.
this, new schedule that we have. All your cooperation, all the times you pulled things through for us are greatly appreciated, as always. So thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.